Chapter 1551. Burning the sky and boiling the sea. The woman looked to be in her late 20s. She had white eyebrows and white hair. Her eyes were icy blue, and her delicate face was like a piece of black ice that had not melted for 10,000 years. She exuded a cold and unapproachable aura. What a cold woman! In the seats of the Nine Saints' heavenly gate, Zhuowen raised his head and stared at the beauty in a long dress at the front of the ice carriage. He was surprised. The woman exuded a cold aura. Even when Zhuowen looked at her from afar, he could feel a chill in his heart. He knew that it was the woman's unique temperament that made him feel that way. She is the palace master of the Snow Palace, Yuan Jibai. She is as cold as ice and unapproachable. She is a heavenly saint expert at the same level as the sect leader of the Burning Heavens sect and the sect leader of the Ferocious Tiger sect. Xia Bingyu walked slowly to Zhuowen's side. When she saw that Zhuowen was paying attention to Yuan Jibai on the ice carriage, she opened her folding fan and introduced her to him. Then, the young man behind Yuan Jibai should be the young palace master of the Snow Palace, Xiu Ziyi? Zhuowen stared at the slender young man behind Yuan Jibai. The young man's white hair was like needles, standing straight up like icicles hanging down from the top of an ice cave. His eyes were as white as frost, and they were filled with coldness and indifference. The young man was as tall as a pine tree, standing behind Yuan Jibai. He carried a large, crystal-clear halberd on his back. The large halberd was snow-white, as if it was made of ice and snow. He stood there, surrounded by countless ice and snow. If one took a closer look, one could vaguely see the shadow of a black tortoise floating in the surrounding ice and snow. Without a doubt, the handsome young man was none other than the young palace master of the Snow Palace, Xiu Ziyi. Yes, that is indeed Xiu Ziyi. It is said that he has the bloodline of the black tortoise. It is rumored in the Burning Heaven city that Xiu Ziyi and the saintess of the Burning Heaven sect, Mu Chunxue, are a match made in heaven. The former has the bloodline of the black tortoise, while the latter has the bloodline of the phoenix. It's said that once warriors with these two bloodlines combine, the energy they can unleash is extremely terrifying. They can unleash strength that far surpasses their own realm. Before Xia Bingyu could finish her words, Zhuowen, who was standing beside her, suddenly clenched his fist, causing Xia Bingyu to shut her mouth. Her beautiful eyes looked towards Zhuowen. At that moment, Zhuowen's expression was somewhat ferocious. A tyrannical aura burst out from his body. It was as if there was a primordial beast hidden in Zhuowen's body that could explode at any moment. T. How can Bathing Lake be worthy of Mu Chunxue? In my opinion, he is not qualified at all, Zhuowen said coldly. Xia Bingyu's beautiful eyes stared at Zhuowen with a complicated expression. However, she did not reply. She was extremely astonished at Zhuowen's abnormal behavior. How do you know that Xiu Ziyi is not worthy of Mu Chunxue? Xia Bingyu could not help but ask. In any case, he is not worthy. Very soon, I will prove it to you. After Zhuowen indifferently said those words, he sat down in his seat and did not say anything else. Seeing Zhuowen's appearance, Xia Bingyu also fell silent. She could faintly feel that the current Zhuowen was very different from usual. Therefore, she did not intend to disturb Zhuowen. After the ice carriage of the Snow Palace landed in the Burning Heaven Plaza, Zhu Tianzong also personally came over. He brought Yuan Jibai, Mu Yuza, and the other disciples of the Snow Palace over and arranged them in the best seats in the Burning Heaven Hall. During this time, many disciples of other forces came over from the horizon. After all the forces had arrived, Zhu Tianzong slowly walked forward. Zhu Tianzong looked around the entire Burning Heaven Plaza and said in a clear voice, "Thank you all for coming to the Burning Heaven sect to witness the marriage alliance between our Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. Sect Master is too polite. Sect Master is too polite. It is our honor to be invited to participate in this marriage alliance." In the plaza, many leaders of forces stood up and politely cupped their hands to return Zhu Tianzong's greeting. Their attitude was extremely respectful. The corner of Zhu Tianzong's mouth slightly raised. Shortly after, he pointed to the seats of the Snow Palace and said with a smile, "This marriage alliance between our Burning Heaven sect's Holy Maiden and the Snow Palace's young palace master is a grand occasion. As the main character of this marriage alliance, I invite the young palace master, Xiao Ziyi, to let everyone get to know each other." After he finished speaking, Xiao Ziyi, whose hair was as white as needles, slowly stepped forward. As he stepped out, wind and snow rushed into the sky. Above his head, the illusory image of a black tortoise wantonly intertwined, and the roar of a beast resounded through the sky. Under the terrifying roar of a beast, many of the surrounding cultivators couldn't help but cover their ears and retreat, their eyes filled with shock. This Xiao Ziyi is indeed the most talented disciple of the Snow Palace. With his cultivation at the peak of the profound sage realm and the power of the Black Tortoise bloodline, he can instantly kill any saint at the peak of the profound sage realm. I'm afraid that even an ordinary Yin Sky saint might not be his opponent, right? The roar of the Black Tortoise was so powerful that even though the seats of the Nine Saints' heavenly sect were rather far from the burning heaven hall, many of the disciples of the Nine Saints' heavenly sect were deeply affected. Even Xia Bingyu couldn't help but take a few steps back. However, Xia Bingyu soon noticed that Zhuoan, who was standing not far away from her, didn't move at all, like an ancient mountain. I wonder if Mie Fen or the young palace master of the Snow Palace, Xiao Ziyi, is stronger. When she saw Zhuoan, who was as immovable as a mountain, Xia Bingyu couldn't help but think of Mie Fen's previous actions. Prince Raven and Jiang Liqing had both suffered a great loss at the hands of Mie Fen, and even Elder Jian didn't dare to casually make a move against him. It was precisely because of these events that Mie Fen was extremely mysterious in Xia Bingyu's heart. At this moment, seeing that Zhuoan didn't move under Xiao Ziyi's power, she couldn't help but compare Mie Fen to Xiao Ziyi. The illusory image of the black tortoise above his head, surrounded by ice and snow, made Xiao Ziyi look like a god or a demon. He stood there with his back straight, as if he could support the entire sky. He turned his head to look at Zhu Tianzong and said respectfully, "Sect Master Zhu, when will the saintess arrive?" At this point, Xiao Ziyi's eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of passion. The Phoenix bloodline and his Black Tortoise bloodline were very compatible bloodlines. The two bloodlines complemented each other, and if they were combined, it would bring benefits that were hard to hide for both of them. Moreover, Xiao Ziyi also knew some inside information. It said that if the two bloodlines could be combined, the offspring would have both bloodlines. This kind of offspring would be brought in by the family in the Central Plains. Perhaps he could rely on this kind of offspring to be accepted as a core disciple of that family, obtaining even more resources. Zhu Tianzong revealed a faint smile and said in a low voice, "Nephew, don't be anxious. Before Chen Shui arrives, I want to give you a gift." "Gift?" Xiao Ziyi asked in a surprised voice. "Burning the heavens and boiling the seas." Zhu Tianzong softly said these 4 words. Xiao Ziyi's pupils couldn't help shrinking. He had already heard about burning the heavens and boiling the seas. It said that deep under the burning heaven plaza, there was a god-descending lava vein. To put it bluntly, this god-descending lava vein was underground magma, but the magma under the burning heaven plaza was not normal. It contained a large amount of energy. The unique architecture of the burning heaven city had an inseparable connection with this god-descending lava vein. It was also because of this god-descending lava vein that the burning heaven sect was able to stand tall, becoming bigger and bigger. As for burning the heavens and boiling the seas, it was a kind of ritual of the burning heaven sect. This ritual was the supreme method of the burning heaven sect. It activated the large array around the god-descending lava vein, and with this large array as a foundation, the god-descending lava vein would be drawn out. The sea of magma would soar into the sky like it was burning the sky, hence the name burning the heavens and boiling the seas. Inside the burning the heavens and boiling the seas, there would be a long-time-old wine. If a cultivator could obtain this wine and drink it, they would have a large chance of breaking through their shackles and advancing to a new realm. In the past, the sect master of the Burning Heaven sect, Zhu Tianzong, had found a 5,000-year-old wine during the Burning the Heavens and Boiling the Seas ceremony. After drinking it, he broke through from the peak of the profound sage realm to the heaven sage realm in one fell swoop. This kind of event caused a great sensation at that time, and it also made countless forces in the southern wilderness discover the great benefits of the burning the heavens and boiling the seas. However, since that time, The Burning Heavens sect had never opened the burning the heavens and boiling the seas again, which made some forces who were looking forward to it quite disappointed. Could it be that the burning the heavens and boiling the seas this time will contain a 5,000-year-old wine? Xiao Zed's eyes lit up as he sent a sound transmission in a low voice. Yes, the 5,000-year-old wine this time will belong to you. After drinking it, you will be able to break through your shackles and become a heaven sage in a short period of time. Before that, I will arrange for Chen Shui to come out. At that time, you two can properly meet. Saying this, the corners of Zhu Tianzong's mouth revealed a calm smile, as if everything was under his control. All right. I will listen to the sect master's arrangement. Xiao Zi did not expect that Zhu Tianzong would open the burning the heavens and boiling the seas for him. This made him feel flattered and somewhat excited. It had been some time since he had advanced to the peak of the profound sage realm. If he did not accumulate and cultivate for a long time, it would take him thousands of years to break through to the heaven sage realm on his own. But now, if he could obtain the 5,000-year-old wine in the burning the heavens and boiling the seas, breaking through to the heaven sage realm would not be a problem. Seeing that Xiao Zi had agreed, Zhu Tianzong also nodded. He had already discussed the burning the heavens and boiling the seas with Yuan Jibai. As long as Xiao Zi had no objections, he could directly take action and summon the burning the heavens and boiling the seas. Zhu Tianzong floated in the sky, looking down at the people in the square, and said in a clear voice, "This marriage is a grand occasion of the 4 major territories, and it is also a happy occasion. Therefore, I have decided to celebrate this happy occasion and prepare to open the burning the heavens and boiling the seas." As soon as these words came out, the entire burning heaven square fell into silence, and then burst into an uproar. After such a long time, the Burning Heavens sect was finally ready to open the burning the heavens and boiling the seas again, and this time, it was in front of the countless forces of the southern wilderness. There was no doubt that the Burning Heavens sect would open the burning the heavens and boiling the seas to face the many major forces of the southern wilderness, and not just the Burning Heavens sect. Chapter 1552. Holy Maiden 18 Black Flame Envoys, get into formation. Zhu Tianzong shouted loudly. Suddenly, the 18 strange figures shrouded in black flames soared into the sky. Shortly after, they formed a series of seals in the air. Following that, flames began to rise from the ground of the Burning Heaven Plaza. These flames spread across the ground of the Burning Heaven Plaza in a unique trajectory. Then, following a specific path, they enveloped the entire plaza. However, these flames were extremely intelligent. As long as it was a seat in the plaza, they would go around it. Although most of the seats were located in the plaza, no one was injured by the sudden appearance of these flames. However, when the flames finally spread across the entire plaza, if one looked down from above, they would discover that the trajectory of these flames was that of a phoenix spreading its wings. Zhu Tianzong landed in front of the 18 black flame envoys and shouted, "Holy Maiden, please! Holy Maiden, please!" The 18 black flame envoys shouted in unison. Their voices were like thunder, reverberating in the air. Squeak! A resounding phoenix cry soared into the sky. From a luxurious pavilion not far away from the Burning Heaven Plaza, an enormous phoenix phantom soared into the sky, shaking the 9 heavens as it looked down on the world. Under the enormous phoenix shadow, there was a bridal sedan burning with blazing flames floating in the air. On the 4 sides of the bridal sedan, there were 4 tall maids wearing flame-colored robes carrying the bridal sedan as they walked in the air. Is that the Holy Maiden of the Burning Heaven sect? I wonder what the mysterious Holy Maiden of the Burning Heaven sect looks like. The bridal sedan flying in the air attracted the gazes of countless cultivators present. Everyone was looking forward to seeing the beautiful figure in the bridal sedan. The Snow Palace's young palace master stood up abruptly. His heroic and handsome gaze landed on the bridal sedan. His originally cold and indifferent face revealed an expression of anticipation. Hu Lai also stood up. He shook his head slightly and said, "The Holy Maiden of the Burning Heaven sect must be incomparably beautiful. Unfortunately, the flowers were planted in the wrong soil." Hu Lai indifferently glanced at Hu Lai and said, "Brother Hu, do you think that this palace master is not worthy of the Holy Maiden?" Hu Lai mischievously smiled and said, I do think so. In my opinion, you are indeed not worthy of the Holy Maiden. Hearing these words, Uzi was neither angry nor annoyed. He calmly said, whether I am worthy or not is not up to you to decide. If brother who feels unconvinced, after the burning heavens and boiling sea comes out, you can compete with me for that 5,000-year-old wine. At that time, you will know whether or not I am worthy of the Holy Maiden. Hulai narrowed his eyes and said in a cold voice, looking at you, you're very confident. Bathing Lake didn't say anything else. His gaze landed on the bridal sedan, revealing a hint of eagerness. He was not burning heaven's Holy Maiden, he was Holy Maiden of heaven, he only heaven too, he was the Phoenix, and the Phoenix. The fact that Xiuzi was able to cultivate to the peak of the profound sage realm was enough to show how firm his will and Dao heart were. Naturally, he wouldn't lose himself to women. The marriage between him and the burning heaven Holy Maiden was not because of feelings, but because of benefits. It could allow him to reach a higher level and have a better future. It was bustling with activity, coming and going. Marrying a woman whom he had never met and whom he had no feelings for the sake of great benefits, was just a small matter to Hulai. In the seats of the 9 Saints' heavenly gate, Zhuoan slightly raised his head and stared at the flaming sedan. His eyes narrowed into a dangerous arc. He clenched his fists, revealing the restlessness in his heart. Xia Bingyu, who was standing beside Zhuoan, also felt the former's strange state. Her beautiful eyes slightly narrowed. This was the first time she had seen the calm and composed youth in front of her reveal such a strange state. Whoosh! The phantom of the phoenix swept through the void, as if it was burning the heavens, its might soaring to the heavens. In the end, the phantom of the phoenix landed on the burning heaven square. Zhu Tianzong took a step forward and said to the sedan with a smile, Chen Shui, I will leave the last step of opening the burning heaven and boiling sea to you. Yes. A cold voice that did not contain any emotions came from the sedan. Following that, the curtain in front of the sedan was lifted and flames swept across the sky. A beautiful figure wearing a long phoenix brocade dress stepped on the flames and appeared in front of everyone's eyes. When this beautiful figure finally appeared in front of everyone's eyes, everyone held their breaths. There were even some people who were stunned on the spot. This beautiful figure was wrapped in a phoenix brocade dress and a white gauze dress, revealing the beautiful lines of her neck and clearly visible collarbones. The dress was like snow, and the moonlight flowed on the ground. It was more than 3 feet long, making her walk even more graceful and beautiful. Her hair was tied up with a hairband and a phoenix hairpin. A strand of hair hung in front of her chest. There was a thin layer of makeup, which only added to the color. The faint redness on her cheeks created a kind of delicate beauty that was like a flower petal. She was like a phoenix spreading its wings in the wind, but also like a clear and pure ice. Under the sparkling and translucent feet of this beautiful figure, a 3-meter-wide fire lotus slowly bloomed. So beautiful. Among the stunned crowd, there were people who whispered to themselves and involuntarily praised. Even the young palace master of the Snow Palace and the young master of the ferocious tiger sect, Hulai, were unable to shift their gazes away for a long time after seeing this beautiful figure. Mu Chunxue was simply too beautiful. She was so beautiful that she was like a fairy who did not eat fireworks in the mortal world. Xia Bingyu was already beautiful and charming enough, but in front of this beautiful figure, she still paled in comparison. Zhuoan frowned slightly. His gaze was fixed on this beautiful figure. For some reason, the Mu Chunxue in front of him gave him a strange feeling. This feeling was very inexplicable, but it really appeared in his heart. At this moment, Mu Chunxue stepped on the ground and landed in the air above the huge phoenix phantom. Then, her jade-like hands continuously pointed as her red lips lightly opened, as if she was chanting some kind of profound chant. Yeah. The phoenix phantom stretched its neck and let out a long cry. Then, it fell from the sky like a meteorite and finally smashed into the burning sky plaza. However, the many seats in the burning sky plaza were not affected at all. It was as if the phoenix phantom was just transparent and passed through their bodies. When the phoenix phantom finally entered the burning sky plaza, the ground of the plaza began to tremble violently. Then, the trajectory of the flame started to crack. Boom. Boom. In the end, The ground of the burning sky plaza cracked into countless pieces. Every piece corresponded to a seat. These pieces were like small islands that floated in the air, layer upon layer. It was a spectacular sight. In the seats of the 9 saints' heavenly gate, many disciples were shocked. They had not expected the ground of the burning sky plaza to crack into pieces. However, it was fortunate that the pieces that carried their seats were suspended in the air by some mysterious force. Therefore, the disciples of the 9 saints' heavenly gate quickly calmed down. Look below. A disciple of the 9 saints' heavenly gate stood at the edge of the crack and shouted as he pointed below. Zhuoan and Xia Bingyu followed the voice and came to the edge of the crack. When they looked down, they were shocked to discover that the burning sky plaza was no longer there. Instead, it had collapsed into a huge, abyss-like hole. In the depths of the void, countless streams of magma surged like numerous enormous fire pythons that grew and multiplied endlessly. Yeah. In the sky above the terrifying magma, the phoenix phantom continued to cry. A pair of phoenix claws seemed to cover the sky. When the claws struck out, the magma surged. In the end, the phoenix once again stretched its neck and let out a long cry. With a flap of its wings, it soared up and instantly flew out of the bottom of the hole. Rumble. The moment the phoenix flew out, the magma underground turned into a terrifying river that soared into the sky, following closely behind the phoenix phantom. This scene was as if the phoenix was leading the magma underground to soar into the sky. Splash! Endless magma rushed out from the ground and stretched across the vast sky of the burning sky hall. A scalding temperature spread out, causing many cultivators around the plaza to feel their mouths and tongues dry. The magma continued for an incense stick's worth of time before it finally stopped. In the vast sky, tens of thousands of miles were covered by the scalding magma. Such a large area of magma was like a vast ocean that seemed to burn the entire sky. It was a magnificent sight. At this moment, the countless flames of the burning heaven sect paled in comparison to the sea of magma that covered the entire sky. In the burning sky city, countless cultivators raised their heads to look at the burning sky and boiling sea. Their hearts trembled as a trace of reverence appeared in their hearts. The entire city was boiling because of this. Is this the burning sky and boiling sea of the burning heaven sect? Xia Bingyu looked up at the magnificent scene in the vast sky with shock in her beautiful eyes. It was the first time she had seen such a magnificent scene. Bingyu, and all of you, an excellent wine called the burning flame nectar will appear in the burning sky and boiling sea. This nectar has the powerful effect of increasing your saint power. Generally, the older the burning flame nectar, the stronger the effect of increasing your saint power. The last time the burning sky and boiling sea opened, Zhu Tianzong, who was still a young man, obtained a 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar and drank it, breaking through to the sky yin saint realm. So, as long as you work hard, you may be able to find your own opportunity in the burning sky and boiling sea. The Empyrean saint said excitedly to the disciples of the 9 saints' heavenly sect behind him. A 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar can actually allow Zhu Tianzong, who was at the peak of the profound saint realm, to break through to the sky yin saint realm? The effect is actually so good. Zhuoan was also shocked. His gaze also became much more fervent. Ever since his cultivation had broken through to the profound glimpse saint realm, there had been no further movement. Zhuoan knew that if he did not encounter any special opportunities, it would take a long time for him to break through to the next level. But now, he knew that the burning sky and boiling sea was an opportunity for him to break through. Chapter 1553. Don't know each other. This is our burning heaven sect's burning sky and boiling sea. I believe that everyone should be familiar with the benefits of the burning sky and boiling sea, right? Zhu Tianzong landed on the roof of the burning heaven hall and stared at the countless fragments floating in the air as he spoke in a clear voice. Who doesn't know about the burning heaven sect's burning sky and boiling sea? Of course we know about it. This time, we have to thank Sect Master Zhu for developing the burning sky and boiling sea for us to compete with. The leaders of the various large forces floating above the fragments all cupped their hands and smiled at Zhu Tianzong with fervent gazes. The burning sky and boiling sea contains burning flame nectar. This thing has undeniable benefits for profound sages. Of course, only the younger generation can enter the burning sky and boiling sea. Seniors, don't try to sneak in. Otherwise, don't blame me, Zhu Tianzong, for being impolite. Zhu Tianzong had a smile at the corner of his mouth. However, his tone was extremely cold, causing many of the older generation experts who were eager to give it a try. They were like deflated balloons. Whoosh! In the sky, the image of a gigantic phoenix flew past and stopped in front of the burning sky palace. Mu Chen Shui walked down step by step, and the 4 maids behind her respectfully followed behind her. Chen Shui, I am the young palace master of the Snow Palace, Xiu Ziyi. I am also your fiancé. Xiu Ziyi is honored to meet you for the first time. Xiu Ziyi slowly walked towards Mu Chen Shui and extended his right hand. His ice-cold face revealed a smile as his handsome eyes stared at the beauty in front of him. Mu Chen Shui indifferently glanced at Xiu Ziyi and gently nodded. She passed by him and landed not far away from Zhu Tianzong. She had no intention of paying any attention to Xiu Ziyi. Xiu Ziyi's extended hand immediately froze in the air. The smile at the corner of his mouth also completely froze. Haha. Xiu Ziyi, aren't you ashamed? Calling yourself the Holy Maiden's fiancé, your skin is really thick. Now that the Holy Maiden is ignoring you, you are just imagining things. Hu Lai laughed and walked into the bathing swamp. Yu Yanzi's eyes were gloomy, but he quickly calmed down and said indifferently, Sect Master's order, the matchmaker's words, this marriage is inevitable. My union with Mu Chen Shui is inevitable. Even if we have no feelings for each other, it won't hinder the result of our union. Hu Lai narrowed his eyes and coldly snorted, You are really a profit-seeking fellow. As long as it is a benefit, I think that you can abandon anything, right? Don't tell me Brother Tiger will let his emotions get the better of him. Living in this world, if you don't act for the sake of profit, you will eventually be gnawed away until even your bones are gone. Bathing Lake didn't refute. Tiger Break said indifferently, I'm not like you, completely selfish. If the Holy Maiden doesn't have any feelings for me, I won't be like you, sticking to her like a piece of sticky candy. Perhaps. Bathing Swamp looked up at the burning sky and boiling sea and continued, Brother Tiger, the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar is the dowry of the Burning Heaven sect. I hope that you won't fight with me for it. Among the younger generation of the various factions, Bathing Swamp didn't take them seriously. Only Hu Lai before him could pose a threat to him, which was why he brought it up. Hu Lai grinned and said, Bathing Swamp, didn't you boast that you have the Black Tortoise bloodline, extremely high talent, and unparalleled strength? Are you afraid that you will lose if you fight with me? Bathing Swamp shook his head and said, I'm not afraid that I will lose. I'm afraid that I will not know how to control my strength and beat you up miserably. At that time, your ferocious tiger sect will not look good. Hu Lai narrowed his eyes and said coldly, You are thinking too much. Even if you beat me up miserably, my ferocious tiger sect won't say anything. Moreover, you will have to beat me up miserably first. Of course, I don't think that you will have such an opportunity. Bathing Swamp didn't say anything else. He paid attention to the changes in the burning sky and boiling sea. At this moment, the vast sea of magma in the sky began to surge violently, creating waves tens of thousands of feet high. Within the waves, there were several sparkling and translucent fiery red crystals. If one looked carefully, one would discover that the fiery red crystals contained a fiery red liquid. Could it be that the crystals contain the burning flame nectar? Some sharp-eyed people quickly noticed the liquid within the crystals and couldn't help but exclaim. The burning flame nectar is in the burning sky and boiling sea. If you want it, go ahead and fight for it, Zhu Tianzong said in a clear voice. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as Zhu Tianzong's voice fell, countless figures shot out from the seats floating in the air and rushed into the sky. They were densely packed like locusts passing through the sky. There were at least 100 major factions invited by the Burning Heaven sect this time. Moreover, each faction brought not 1 or 2 disciples, but more than a dozen. In total, there were 1 to 2,000 juniors. In the eyes of the crowd, it was not particularly strange that so many figures could appear in an instant. Brother Miefen, follow me into the burning sky and boiling sea. This way, We can take care of each other, right? Xia Bingyu said with a smile as she stared at Zhuowen with her beautiful eyes. Zhuowen was stunned, but he shook his head and said, "You go in with your brothers first. I'll go in later." Xia Bingyu didn't expect Zhuowen to reject her flatly. She was a little annoyed and said with a cold snort, "You really don't know how to appreciate my kindness. I'm ignoring you." With that, Xia Bingyu stomped her foot and led several maids into the burning sky and boiling sea with the disciples of the Nine Saints heavenly sect led by Han Yu. The reason why Zhuowen didn't enter the burning sky and boiling sea was mainly because the young palace master of the Snow Palace, Xiu Ziyi, also didn't enter. At this moment, Zhu Tianzong was standing side by side with Xiu Ziyi, as if he was transmitting something to him. Mu Chunxue stood behind Zhu Tianzong with a cold expression, as if she wasn't interested in anything. "Chen Shui," Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. He took a step forward and instantly flew towards the burning sky hall. "Brother Miefen, where are you going?" The Empyrean saint didn't pay attention for a moment. When he saw Zhuowen flying towards the burning sky hall, he was instantly shocked. As for Loz, he naturally followed closely behind Zhuowen. Zhuowen didn't pay attention to the shocked Empyrean saint. When he finally landed on the burning sky hall, he finally attracted the attention of the Burning Heaven sect, Snow Palace, and Ferocious Tiger sect. "Who are you?" Zhu Tianzong asked with a frown. "I'm Miefen. I've heard of the Burning Heaven sect's Holy Maiden's name, so I've specially come to Burning Sky City to see the Holy Maiden's face. Of course, if I can get closer to her, I'd be more than happy to." Zhuowen's lips curled up slightly as he lightly spat out these words. Xiu Ziyi's face immediately turned cold when he heard these words. Mu Chunxue was his fiancée. Now that this unknown youth had come and said such presumptuous words, Xiu Ziyi naturally felt very uncomfortable in his heart. On the other hand, Hu Lai's eyes were filled with ridicule as he crossed his arms. The sudden appearance of this youth had piqued Hu Lai's interest. "Oh, you're Miefen? I've heard of you from the sect's elders." Zhu Tianzong sized up Zhuowen from head to toe. The youth in front of him had a sickly pale face and a slender figure, standing proudly like a bamboo. Back then, Zhuowen's incident at the Burning Flames restaurant had been reported to the sect by the restaurant's managing elder. Zhu Tianzong had also paid attention to this Miefen. After all, it was said that the Loz by Miefen's side had the strength of a heavenly saint. Even the sword elder of the Jiangxian family had been defeated by him in one move. From this, it could be seen that Loz's strength was extraordinary. And to be able to have such an expert protecting him, the youth in front of him must have an extraordinary background. However, as he investigated, Zhu Tianzong discovered that Miefen's origin was extremely mysterious. Even the Burning Heaven sect couldn't find out anything about him. Moreover, the name Miefen made Zhu Tianzong slightly unhappy. After all, Miefen seemed to have the meaning of destroying the Burning Heaven sect. It was precisely because of these reasons that Zhu Tianzong had such a deep impression of Miefen. Now that Miefen had announced his name, he immediately recognized him. "It's my honor to be recognized by the Burning Heaven sect's sect master. I wonder if I can meet the saintess?" Zhuowen asked with a smile. Zhu Tianzong narrowed his eyes, but Xiu Ziyi, who was beside him, coldly snorted and said, "Who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have to meet the saintess?" After all, Mu Chunxue was Xiu Ziyi's fiancé in name. Now, this youth who had suddenly appeared wanted to meet Mu Chunxue. Moreover, he didn't put Xiu Ziyi in his eyes at all. This was too arrogant. How could Xiu Ziyi tolerate this? "Whether I meet the saintess or not doesn't seem to have anything to do with you, right? Moreover, whether I can meet the saintess or not isn't something you can decide, right? It's something that the saintess herself decides," Zhuowen said unhurriedly. "How presumptuous. I'm Chen Shui's fiancé. Who do you think you are? Without my permission, don't even think about meeting her. Get out of here as soon as possible." Xiu Ziyi was a little unhappy. However, not long after he finished speaking, a fiery red figure slowly swept past him and finally landed in front of Zhuowen. Mu Chunxue's beautiful eyes stared straight into Zhuowen's eyes. Her beautiful eyebrows slightly knitted together as she muttered in a low voice, "What a familiar gaze." I think I've seen it somewhere before, but I can't remember where. At this moment, Xiao Ziyi seemed to have been petrified. It was clearly Mie Fen who came to meet Mu Chunxue, but Mu Chunxue was one step ahead of him. She stood in front of Mie Fen and stared straight at him. Mu Chunxue's actions were considered intimate in Xiao Ziyi's eyes. After all, Mu Chunxue had previously ignored her fiancé. Little bastard, you've gone too far. How dare you be so presumptuous to my fiancé in front of me? The veins on Xiao Ziyi's forehead bulged and his snow-white hair stood on end. He took a step forward and the wind and snow filled the sky. The shadow of the black tortoise surged as he planned to attack Zhuowen. Squeak. Chapter 1554. Killing intent pervaded boom. When the black tortoise silhouette collided with the phoenix silhouette, the two silhouettes exploded with an ear-piercing sound. Following that, the black tortoise silhouette shrieked and collapsed. On the other hand, the phoenix silhouette was full of vitality. What a rich bloodline power. Zhu Tianzong, your Burning Heaven sect's Mu Chunxue's phoenix bloodline is so rich. I really didn't expect it. Looking at the beautiful figure surrounded by the phoenix silhouette, the palace master of the Snow Palace, Yuan Jibai, couldn't help but exclaim emotionally. The black tortoise bloodline in Shiyenza's body wasn't weak either. However, the black tortoise silhouette was actually defeated by Mu Chunxue's phoenix silhouette. Without a doubt, the bloodline power of the two was not on the same level. The corner of Zhu Tianzong's mouth raised slightly. He was also a little surprised. Although he knew that Mu Chunxue had the phoenix bloodline in her body, he didn't know how rich it was. However, after clashing with Shiyenza's black tortoise bloodline, Zhu Tianzong finally realized that the phoenix bloodline in Mu Chunxue's body wasn't ordinary. This made Zhu Tianzong secretly happy. Not only Yuan Jibai, but even the ferocious Tiger sect master, Hu Benshan, was secretly shocked. Of course, the most unbelievable thing was still Shiyenza. He also couldn't believe that his bloodline power was actually inferior to Mu Chunxue's. Although he was far from using his full strength, in terms of bloodline, he was indeed weaker than Mu Chunxue by a level. Moreover, what made Shiyenza even more furious was that Mu Chunxue actually attacked her fiancé because of Mie Fen. No matter how calm Shiyenza was, he was so angry that he lost his mind at this moment. You're all courting death. Shiyenza roared. His snow-white hair stood straight, and the wind and snow fluttered. His holy aura soared into the sky as if even the sky was about to collapse. Nephew, don't be rash. However, just as Shiyenza was about to explode, Zhu Tianzong gently placed his right hand on Shiyenza's shoulder, calming him down. Sect Master, Yu Shizhe frowned and looked at Zhu Tianzong. Mu Chunxue was his fiancée after all. How could he bear to see her fighting with a stranger? What is yours will always be yours. 5,000 years' worth of burning flame nectar should be formed in the burning sky and boiling sea. I don't think you should miss out on such a thing. After the burning of the heavens and boiling of the seas, if you're lucky enough to break through to the heavenly saint realm, wouldn't that be wonderful? When the time comes, the marriage between our two families will naturally be settled. As for those unrelated people, they will always be unrelated people. Zhu Tianzong used secret voice sending to calm Yu Ziyi down. He looked coldly at Mie Fen and Mu Chunxue in front of him and finally nodded. Then I will enter the burning sky and boiling sea first. Thanks to the sect leader's auspicious words, I will be able to obtain the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar. I believe you will be able to get it, Zhu Tianzong said with a smile. Whoosh. Yu Ziyi did not reply. He glanced at Zhuowen and said coldly, hiding behind a woman, how promising. After he finished speaking, Xiao Ziyi stomped his right foot and shot into the vast sky. He entered the sea of magma that stretched as far as the eye could see. Hu Lai was not to be outdone. The tiger roars in his body formed a forest, and like a fierce tiger, he rushed into the depths of the sea of magma. The scene in the Burning Heaven Hall was naturally seen by many of the leaders of the forces in the seats. They all pointed at Mie Fen and had a new understanding of his audacity. Isn't that Mie Fen the mysterious youth who threw Prince Raven and Jiang Glitching out of the Burning Flame restaurant? Yes, it should be the same person. Speaking of which, this Mie Fen is really bold. He actually asked to see the holy maiden in front of the burning heaven sect, the ferocious tiger sect, and the snow palace. Voices of surprise could be heard from the spectators. This Mie Fen is really bold. Fortunately, this is in public, so the burning heaven sect won't act so petty. However, this will definitely make Zhu Tianzong unhappy, right? On the seats of the 9 saints' heavenly gate, the Empyrean saint said worriedly. Right now, in front of so many forces of the southern barbarian region, the burning heaven sect naturally wouldn't let Mie Fen scram. After all, the holy maiden had taken the initiative to come out, so the burning heaven sect couldn't act rashly. However, it was hard to say whether or not the burning heaven sect would settle the score with Mie Fen Chiu after this. This Mie Fen has some personality. It's just that the holy maiden actually agreed to his request. This is really beyond my expectations. Jiang Xian narrowed his eyes and muttered in surprise. What a familiar gaze. I seem to have seen it somewhere before. Mu Chenshue's beautiful eyes were fixed on Zhuowen's eyes. She frowned, as if she was trying to recall something, but she couldn't remember anything. Mu Chenshue's appearance made Zhuowen feel a little strange. He knew that if it was really Mu Chenshue, she should be able to recognize him from his eyes. After all, Mu Chenshue had been with him for quite some time, so she knew him well. But now, Mu Chenshue didn't recognize him at all, which made Zhuowen feel incredulous. With a light sigh, Zhuowen sent a sound transmission. Chen Shui, do you still have the mysterious nether orb on you? The mysterious nether orb was something that Zhuowen had given to Mu Chenshue when they were at the Divine Academy. Zhuowen knew that if he were to say this, as long as Mu Chenshue wasn't a fool, she would definitely be able to recognize him. Mysterious nether orb? Mu Chenshue was stunned. Her beautiful eyes revealed a look of doubt. Then, she took out a black bead from her bosom and asked, "Are you talking about this bead?" Zhu Tianzong didn't know anything about the mysterious nether orb. Even if Mu Chenshue took out the mysterious nether orb, Zhu Tianzong wouldn't have any suspicions. This bead contains the lore of the mysterious nether, but it's very weak. It should be the lore of the mysterious nether that was injected into it by a semi-sage. After returning to the sect, this bead was with me. But what I find strange is, how did this bead appear on me? I don't have any impression of it before. Could it be that you know the origin of this bead? Mu Chenshue seemed to be muttering in a low voice, but also seemed to be answering her own question. In the end, her seductive eyes fell on Zhuowen, as if she was asking the latter about the origin of this bead. Zhuowen's expression became extremely ugly. From Mu Chenshue's various signs, he was certain that Mu Chenshue had lost her memory. Or rather, Mu Chenshue's memories of him and Jioshan Academy had already been lost. As for why Mu Chenshue lost her memory, Zhuowen didn't need to think to know that it was definitely caused by Zhu Tianzong. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's body emitted a faintly discernible killing intent. This killing intent was very faint, but Zhu Tianzong immediately caught it. Zhu Tianzong narrowed his eyes. He was a little surprised by Mie Fen's sudden abnormal behavior. Of course, the conversation between Mie Fen and Mu Chenshue was isolated by the soundproof restriction that Zhuowen had deliberately released. Thus, Zhu Tianzong didn't hear the specific content of their conversation. "What's wrong with you?" Looking at the abnormal behavior of the young man in front of her, Mu Chenshue's beautiful eyes flashed. Her calm heart was a little flustered. She didn't know why, but the young man in front of her made her very concerned. It was clearly the first time she had seen this young man, so why was she worried about him? "It's nothing. Actually, I'm not very clear about the origin of this bead, but it's extremely important to you. You have to take good care of it." Zhuowen slowly calmed the killing intent on his body. He smiled at Mu Chenshue and continued, "I'm going to take a trip to the burning sky and boiling sea. I wonder if the holy maiden is also planning to enter to find the burning flame nectar." Mu Chenshue shook her head and said, "I have the phoenix bloodline, so I have a natural resistance to fire. The burning flame nectar is a fire attribute, so it won't have any obvious effect on me. In that case, I'll take my leave first." With that, Zhuowen turned around and stepped into the air without hesitation. In an instant, he swept into the burning sky and boiling sea, while Lo's returned to the seats of the 9 saints' heavenly gate. Zhuoan, Mu Chunxue seems to have lost her memories of you. The moment he entered the burning sky and boiling sea, Xiao Hei's voice rang out in his mind. I know. In the boundless sea of magma, Zhuoan's eyes became extremely cold. He no longer suppressed the killing intent in his body, and it suddenly erupted. At this moment, he needed to vent properly. He had not expected that Mu Chunxue would actually lose her memories of him. Zhuoan felt a little pain in his heart when he thought about how Mu Chunxue had forgotten about him. To be forgotten by someone you deeply loved was an indescribable sorrow. However, Zhuoan knew that now was not the time to be sad. Even if Mu Chunxue had lost her memories, he had to snatch them back. Xiao Hei transformed into Xiao Hei's dog form and stood on Zhuoan's shoulder as it chuckled. Zhuoan, that Hu Bei's is the young palace master of the Snow Palace and is also Mu Chunxue's fiancé. How do you plan to deal with Hu Bei's? Naturally, I won't let Hu Bei's go. Moreover, I want to use the most humiliating method to let him know in front of all the forces that is not worthy of Chen Shui, Zhuoan said coldly. Xiao Hei's little eyes turned and it grinned. How about this? This burning sky and boiling sea is probably specially prepared by Zhu Tianzong for Hu Bei's. The forces from the southern barbarian lands that came to participate are just getting a share of the soup. If this Dragon Master's guess is correct, Zhu Tianzong has already told Hu Bei's about the most precious 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar. It won't be too late for you to make a move after Hu Bei's obtains the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar. Zhuoan nodded slightly and said, Xiao Hei, you should have left some mark on Hu Bei's just now, right? Hey, it's just a bit of aura. If that brat Hu Bei's really does find the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar, this Dragon Master will tell you. Of course, once the nectar is produced, it will be very powerful. Even if I don't say anything, you should be able to find it. Saying this, Xiao Hei's smile was very lewd. Even Zhuoan almost slapped it. The magma resistance around this burning sky and boiling sea is very strong. I wonder if the spirit-swallowing magma river can increase my speed here. Chapter 1555. Pressure that's the 100-year burning flame nectar. Chase it. A rather noisy noise came from the front. Then, Zhuoan discovered that there were 8 figures in front of him. The power of laws revolved around them, forming a powerful layer of defense that resisted the blazing magma in the surroundings. Zhuoan focused and discovered that the 8 of them were chasing after a fiery red crystal. The crystal contained a red liquid. Needless to say, the red liquid was the burning flame nectar. It was the 100-year burning flame nectar that the 8 of them were talking about. Zhuoan pulled the fiery red crystal into his palm with a wave of his right hand. He flipped his right hand, and the fiery red crystal stood quietly in his palm. The fiery red crystal's trajectory just happened to be where Zhuoan was, so he casually pulled it into his palm. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Who are you? Hurry up and hand over the 100-year burning flame nectar. The 8 of them arrived in an instant and landed in 8 different directions around Zhuoan. One of them, a muscular young man in a leather vest, stared at Zhuoan with hostility. And who are you? Zhuoan toyed with the fiery red crystal in his hand and asked in a mocking tone. The muscular young man in the leather vest had a decent cultivation. He was a half-saint. 4 of the other 7 were invincible emperor lords, while the other 3 were high-level emperors. We're disciples of the mountain-pulling sect. Know your place and hand over the burning flame nectar in your hand. If you do, I'll consider cutting off one of your arms and not taking your life, the man in the leather vest said indifferently. Zhuoan clenched his right hand, and his gaze landed on the fiery red crystal in his palm. Immediately, he clenched his fist, and the crystal was crushed. The fiery red liquid hidden within the crystal shot out, and was drunk by Zhuoan in a single gulp. Zhuoan immediately felt a burning sensation as he roared. It was as if his entire body was on fire, and it was burning hot. However, Zhuoan could keenly feel that within this burning sensation, there was a warm flow of energy circulating through Zhuoan's meridians before finally merging into his dantian. With the injection of this warm current, Zhuoan could clearly feel that the saint energy in his dantian seemed to have increased by quite a bit. This burning flame nectar really has the effect of increasing saint energy. Zhuowen's eyes lit up with joy as he muttered in a low voice. You. Well done, well done. You actually dared to swallow the burning flame nectar in front of us. You're dead. The 8 people led by the muscular young man in the leather vest all revealed furious expressions. This Zhuowen was really too presumptuous. The 8 of them were the ones who had discovered this 100-year treasure. Furthermore, they had chased after it for quite some time. Now, this young man in front of them had obtained it without putting in any effort. This was simply too hateful. Kill. The muscular young man in the leather vest trembled with anger. With a loud roar, he charged forward like a tyrannical lion. In an instant, he swept in front of Zhuowen. The law of fire swept out and condensed into a huge flaming broadsword. He viciously slashed it at Zhuowen. Zhuowen shrugged his shoulders and suddenly blasted out his right fist. The flaming broadsword that the muscular young man had painstakingly condensed collapsed immediately. This. He shattered my law broadsword with his bare hands. Seeing this scene, the muscular young man's heart trembled with fear. Just as he was about to step back to avoid the punch suddenly accelerated and quickly blasted in front of him. Fart. Even if Zhuowen did not unleash the power of his saint body, this punch still caused the muscular young man to explode into a cloud of blood mist. Blood rained down. Zhuowen looked around and his gaze fell on the 7 people. He said indifferently, "Do you still want to snatch it from me?" "No. We'll leave immediately. We have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please don't take offense, my lord." The 7 people, who had originally intended to attack, suddenly froze. Immediately, like mice with their tails between their legs, they quickly fled. After this incident, Zhuowen also learned a lot about the burning flame nectar. For this kind of treasure that could increase one's saint energy, Zhuowen also joined the ranks of the scrambling. Whether it was the crystals that had no owner or those that had been obtained by others, Zhuowen took them all. Because Zhuowen's strength was extremely powerful, even the disciples of some major forces suffered a great loss at the hands of Zhuowen. For a time, the name Ye Fen could be said to be well known in the burning sky and boiling sea. Many disciples saw Zhuowen's figure from afar and avoided him in advance, as if they were avoiding the god of plague. The 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar has appeared. It's over there. Let's go. Suddenly, a clamor was heard. Zhuowen, who was originally in the sea of magma, heard someone's shout, so he also used his movement technique and rushed in the direction of those people. Whoosh! In this sea of magma, there were 10 flaming mountains that looked extremely strange. At this moment, there were many figures gathered around the flaming mountains. These people seemed to be afraid of something and did not enter the center of the flaming mountains. It's Prince Raven from the Dark Crow sect and the little virtuous Prince Jiang Licheng from the Jiangxian clan. If the 2 of them join forces, I'm afraid Xia Bingyu and Han Yu from the 9 Saint Heavenly Gate will be in trouble. Xia Bingyu from the 9 Saint Heavenly Gate is lucky to be able to find the 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar. This is really beyond everyone's expectations. Even Prince Raven and Jiang Licheng can't resist the temptation of this item. Zhuowen squinted his eyes when he heard the discussion. He quickly quickened his pace and leaped to the periphery of the mountain. In the mountain, 2 parties were in a stalemate. Prince Raven from the Dark Crow sect and Jiang Licheng from the Jiangxian clan were both floating in the air, suppressing the other party. The other party was led by Xia Bingyu, who was disguised as a man, and Han Yu, who was dressed in white. Behind them were the other disciples of the 9 Saint Heavenly Gate. However, the 9 Saint Heavenly Gate was being suppressed by the Dark Crow sect and the Jiangxian clan and gradually fell into a decline. The defense formed by the crowd was showing signs of collapsing. Bingyu, give me the 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar and I'll help you find other nectar. How about it? I won't let you suffer. Jiang Licheng stared at Xia Bingyu with blazing eyes. To be more precise, he was staring at the crystal in Xia Bingyu's hand. The surface of the crystal was as red as a flame. The liquid in the crystal was constantly surging as if it wanted to escape from the shackles of the crystal. Jiang Licheng, you're shameless. Xia Bingyu's beautiful eyes were cold. Jiang Licheng has always been a hypocrite. How about this, Bingyu? The outer shell of the 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar is too hard. You won't be able to open it in a short time. Why don't you take it out and let everyone work together to open it? We'll split it equally. How about that? Prince Raven laughed sinisterly. Xia Bingyu's beautiful eyes were even colder. The Nine-Saint Heavenly Gate had spent a lot of effort to obtain the 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar from the restrictive spells in the surrounding 10 flaming mountains. The Nine-Saint Heavenly Gate had even lost a few disciples because of it. How could she be willing to share the 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar that the Nine-Saint Heavenly Gate had painstakingly obtained? Bingyu, if you don't make a decision quickly, you won't be so kind when we break through your defense. Prince Raven sneered, his sinister eyes filled with evil intent. Slap. However, before Prince Raven could finish his words, a palm came out of nowhere and landed heavily on his face. A clear slap sounded. The dark crow crown prince spun a couple of times in the air before spitting out a mouthful of cherry-red blood. Then, like a dead dog, he fell to the ground with his cheeks swollen. A foot stepped on Prince Raven's body and an indifferent voice rang out, "You're just a chicken. How dare you be so arrogant? Are you tired of living? Do you want to be stewed in chicken soup?" Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, everyone was frozen in place. They didn't expect such a turn of events. The originally arrogant Dark Crow Crown Prince was now beaten like a dead dog. The contrast was too great, and the scene was too beautiful. No one dared to look at it. Who are you? How dare you sneak attack the Crown Prince? You're courting death. The 7 or 8 disciples of the Dark Crow sect, who were standing behind the Crown Prince, shouted angrily when they regained their senses. In their opinion, this strange young man must have used some despicable method to sneak attack the Crown Prince. Noisy. Zhuo Wen did not pay any attention to the 7 or 8 disciples of the Dark Crow sect who had shouted angrily. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the 7 or 8 disciples of the Dark Crow sect and threw them out of the burning sky and boiling sea. How terrifying. Isn't this guy Miefen? I didn't expect this malefic star to intervene in this matter. Many martial artists in the surroundings noticed the young man who was stepping on Prince Raven's body. Many of them recognized the young man, especially those who had been robbed by Miefen. Their faces twitched. Their desire to fight for the burning flame nectar was extinguished as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. This bastard, back off. Jiang Liqing narrowed his eyes and stepped back. At the same time, he ordered the 7 or 8 disciples of the Jiangxian family to back off. Since Miefen had thrown the burning flame restaurant out, Jiang Liqing had realized how terrifying Miefen was. He knew that he and the 7 or 8 disciples were no match for Miefen. Therefore, he ordered the disciples to retreat immediately. The 7 or 8 disciples of the Jiangxian family had also heard of Miefen. Naturally, they did not hesitate to carry out Jiang Liqing's order. Want to leave? Get back here. Zhuoan stepped on Prince Raven and stretched out his right hand. The power of the divine physique was fully displayed. His palm seemed to be plated with gold and it emitted an unprecedented golden light. Whoosh. The palm passed through the void and set off endless waves of magma. Then, it swept in front of Jiang Liqing and pressed down on him. Jiang Liqing's expression changed drastically. He used the shadowless snowsteps body technique and turned into an illusory shadow. He disappeared in front of the giant palm in an instant. Chapter 1556. Fire Chelin, get the hell over here. A thunderous voice resounded through the burning sea. After that, the huge palm that was chasing Jiang Liqing suddenly clenched. Immediately, the space around Jiang Liqing collapsed at the same time. No matter how proficient Jiang Liqing's shadowless snowsteps was, he couldn't hide from the power of this palm. With the surrounding space shattered, Jiang Liqing couldn't dodge at all. He could only face the palm head-on. Fight! Jiang Liqing roared. The veins on his forehead bulged as a sword formation appeared from his spirit ring. The sword formation was composed of 2 swords. A formation diagram that exuded a mysterious aura was suspended at the top of the swords. The 2 swords were black and white. The black and white brilliance soared into the sky, transforming into the 8 trigrams of Tai Chi Tai Chi sword formation, / Jiang Licheng shouted. The black and white swords cut through the void, transforming into two black and white arcs that looked extremely terrifying. Jiang Licheng actually took out the Taikai sword formation. The two swords in the Taikai sword formation are both profound saint tools. The sword formation formed by the combination of the two swords is much more powerful than an ordinary profound saint tool. When the Tai Chi sword formation revealed its power, many of the onlookers were surprised. They didn't expect Jiang Licheng to use such a powerful Tai Chi sword formation as soon as he made a move. The Tai Chi sword formation was mighty. It was Jiang Licheng's most powerful trump card. With the Tai Chi sword formation, even an ordinary peak profound saint wouldn't dare to provoke Jiang Licheng. Crack! At this moment, a shattering sound rang out. Just as everyone was shocked by Jiang Licheng's Tai Chi sword formation, the huge hand swept over and heavily slammed into the Tai Chi sword formation. Then, the Tai Chi sword formation collapsed inch by inch, shattering into countless pieces. How is this possible? Looking at the shattered Tai Chi sword formation, Jiang Licheng was completely shocked. The Tai Chi sword formation was composed of two profound sage-grade swords. It was as hard as iron and stone. An ordinary profound saint might not necessarily be able to shatter it even if they used all their strength. But now, Mie Fen's huge hand had crushed the Tai Chi sword formation without even using saint force. This was too incredible. While Jiang Licheng stood there in a daze, the large hand arrived in an instant and ruthlessly slapped Jiang Licheng's face. Then, the latter spat out a mouthful of blood and was directly beaten to the ground. Then, the huge hand grabbed again and lifted Jiang Licheng to Zhuowen's feet. Zhuowen's other foot stepped directly on Jiang Licheng's body. At this moment, Zhuowen was stepping on Prince Raven with his right foot and Jiang Licheng with his left. He was like a god looking down at everyone. This scene caused the mouths of many people in the surroundings to twitch. This Zhuowen was too ruthless. Prince Raven was the successor of the Dark Crow sect. He was one of the top geniuses in the southern barbarian lands. Jiang Licheng was even more outstanding. He was a genius who was even more powerful than Yang Ruhua of the Burning Heaven sect. He had the title of the #1 genius in the Burning Heaven city. Of course, if Jiang Licheng were to face the saintess of the Burning Heaven sect, the title of the #1 genius might not be true. However, this was enough to show how great Jiang Licheng's influence in the Burning Heaven city was. But now, at this moment, these two extremely renowned geniuses in the southern wilderness had actually been annihilated by a young man of unknown origin and trampled beneath his feet. This was truly too inconceivable. Mie Fen, you're too bold. How dare you step on us to get to the top? The Dark Crow sect will not let you go. You'll have to bear the consequences of offending the Jiangxian family. Prince Raven and Jiang Licheng were almost crazy. It was too humiliating to be stepped on like this. Did Mie Fen treat them as stepping stones? Was he not afraid of the forces behind them? How could he be so unscrupulous? Are the two of you very noisy? Do you really want to die? Zhuowen stomped his feet, and a tremendous force spread out from the bottom of his feet. Immediately, the two people beneath his feet groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. Their bodies were covered in cracks, and they seemed like they would collapse at any moment. Prince Raven and Jiang Licheng were so shocked that they did not dare to speak anymore. They were really afraid that Mie Fen would go crazy and kill them. Swoosh! Swoosh! After Prince Raven and Jiang Licheng were stepped on by Zhuowen, Xia Bingyu and Han Yu brought the disciples of the Nine Saints Heavenly Sect over and landed in front of Zhuowen. Brother Mie Fen, thank you for saving us this time. Han Yu quickly thanked him with a warm and surprised expression. Although Xia Bingyu had said that Mie Fen was unfathomable, he did not expect Mie Fen to be so powerful. Prince Raven and Jiang Licheng, the two experts, were like displaying their slight skills in front of an expert. They were trampled under his feet like vegetables, which was beyond his expectations. It's nothing. Zhuowen smiled. Xia Bingyu, on the other hand, stared at Zhuowen with a complicated look in her eyes. Even she did not expect that Mie Fen would be the one to save them. Xia Bingyu gritted her teeth and took out the red crystal in her hand. She handed it to Zhuowen and said, "Since you saved us, I'll give you this 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar as your reward. Junior sister, this. Han Yu was stunned and immediately stopped talking. He looked at Mie Fen in front of him. Speaking of which, they were saved safely because of Mie Fen. There was nothing wrong with giving the 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar to Mie Fen. However, Han Yu felt that it was a pity that they had risked their lives to obtain this 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar. He was unwilling to hand it over. Zhuowen was also surprised. He did not expect Xia Bingyu to be willing to hand over the 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar to him. Zhuowen smiled faintly as he received the crystal. With a squeeze of his right hand, the crystal directly crumbled into dust. The fiery red liquid contained within it surged out. Zhuowen took 1/3 of the liquid and returned the remaining 2/3 to Xia Bingyu. He smiled and said, "This 1/3 of the burning flame nectar is my reward for helping you." Xia Bingyu's jade-like hands held 2/3 of the fiery red liquid suspended in her palm. She never would have thought that Mie Fen would actually give away 2/3 of the burning flame nectar. "Brother Mie Fen, thank you very much. I am very grateful." Han Yu's eyes were filled with joy as he repeatedly bowed to Zhuowen. He was extremely shocked by Zhuowen's actions. This was a 1,000-year-old burning flame nectar. It was very beneficial to a profound sage. Mie Fen giving away 2/3 was already very good to the 9 Saints' heavenly gate. "Thank you, Mie Fen." Xia Bingyu's lips trembled as she whispered. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, there was a terrifying vibration. Everyone was shocked to find that the surrounding 10 flame mountains were trembling violently. Then, they were suspended in the air and began to rotate. The rotation speed was getting faster and faster. Finally, the 10 flame mountains converged toward the center and collided with each other. Rumble. A muffled thunder-like sound resounded. The moment the 10 flaming mountains collided, they trembled violently, and their surfaces began to crack into countless pieces. The flames on the surface of the flame mountains converged toward the center of the 10 mountains. Finally, when all the flames converged, the 10 flame mountains turned into fine powder and were completely engulfed by the surrounding sea of magma. A fire chelene that was dozens of feet long finally appeared in front of everyone. The fire chelene's body was covered with dense flames and looked extremely horrifying. "This is the burning flame nectar. It's on the chelene's neck." Suddenly, someone exclaimed. Then, everyone's eyes converged on the chelene's neck. There, a fiery red crystal the size of a palm was tightly attached to it. This fiery red crystal was in the shape of a chelene. It was very lifelike. "This is a 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar. Only at this age can it transform," someone else exclaimed. Hearing this, the breathing of countless people in the surroundings quickened. Their eyes were filled with passion. 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar was enough to make all profound sages go crazy. "Grab it." In an instant, countless people rushed toward the huge fire chelene. Everyone had lost their minds. At this moment, the only thing in their eyes was the huge fire chelene in front of them. Everyone knew that as long as they could grab this 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar, no matter who it was, they would make transformative progress. Roar. The fire chelene's fiery eyes were full of tyranny. Especially when it saw the countless warriors rushing toward it, it roared angrily. The fire chelene suddenly jumped up. The surrounding magma violently surged and shot out like countless arrows. Arth! Screams rang out one after another. Many warriors who were not strong enough retreated with injuries under the attack of the countless arrows. Some unlucky fellows were hit by the arrows and directly burned to ashes. However, there were also some powerful warriors who blasted away the countless arrows and instantly rushed in front of the fire chelene, frantically attacking it. Of course, there were also some people who took advantage of the situation and secretly waited for an opportunity. Their purpose was naturally to obtain the burning flame nectar on the fire chelene's neck. However, this fire chelene was not a persimmon that could be easily pinched. Even though it was besieged by many warriors, it was not afraid at all. It counterattacked again and again, causing many of the besieging warriors to retreat. Xia Bingyu came to Zhuowen's side and couldn't help but ask, "This fire chelene is so terrifying. Mie Fen, Should we join in and grab this 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar? Zhuo Wen had yet to speak when a violent tiger's roar suddenly flashed over from afar. In the endless magma, a huge white tiger phantom was striding over at an extremely fast speed. The white tiger's shadow instantly arrived above the fire Qilin, and a pair of tiger claws fiercely smashed down. It was as if it could crush anything in the world, and it was as if it could crush anything. Chapter 1557. Tiger Split Roar. The fire Qilin roared at the sky. A pair of sky-covering sharp claws suddenly shot upwards. Rumble. The fire Qilin's claw attack caused the surrounding sea of magma to churn and wreak havoc. It soared into the sky, appearing like a huge fire dragon that was wreaking havoc. The might of the fire Qilin's claw attack caused the surrounding cultivators, who had retreated, to feel a chill in their hearts. The huge white tiger fell from the sky like a hot knife through butter. Its mountain-like body stood in the middle of the sea of magma. A steel chain-like tough and terrifying tiger tail swung horizontally. Crack! The fire Qilin's claws that were wreaking havoc were completely destroyed by the terrifying might of the tiger tail. The fire Qilin's huge body was also pushed back by the terrifying tail attack, causing waves of magma to rise. Roar! The fire Qilin's fiery eyes were filled with fear. It stared intently at the white tiger illusory figure that had suddenly appeared in front of it. The white tiger illusory figure posed a great threat to it, causing the fire Qilin to faintly feel like retreating. Swoosh! After the fire Qilin roared, it directly turned around and fled in front of everyone's eyes. This scene caused everyone's jaws to drop. Originally, everyone thought that the fire Qilin and the white tiger illusory figure would have an earth-shaking battle. Unexpectedly, the fire Qilin had only exchanged a single blow with the white tiger illusory figure before it became terrified and fled. Where do you think you're going? A thunderous roar exploded in the sky. A robust figure stood in front of the fire Qilin in the direction that it had fled. It's the young master of the ferocious tiger sect, Hu Lai. Waves of exclamations erupted when everyone's eyes landed on this muscular young man. Quite a number of people had recognized Hu Lai's identity. Roar! The fire Qilin's fiery eyes were filled with disdain when it saw a human cultivator standing in front of it. It roared and charged forward. In the fire Qilin's opinion, the human cultivator in front of it was simply courting death. It would be able to smash the human cultivator to death if it charged forward. Endless world, dragon subduing tiger. Tiger Break stood in the air and pressed down with his right hand. Terrifying Saint Force continued to gather behind him and finally formed a giant hand that was several thousand feet long. This giant hand was like a five-fingered mountain. It came crashing down from the sky, as if it could subdue a true dragon and suppress a ferocious tiger. After that, everyone noticed to their astonishment that the terrifying fire Qilin that possessed an imposing aura that was like a rainbow had directly knelt on the ground under the suppression of this large hand. It was firmly suppressed and was utterly unable to stand up. As for that enormous hand, it turned into a five-fingered mountain and crushed the fire Qilin beneath it. Seeing Hu Lai suppress the fire Qilin with a single hand, many of the surrounding martial artists felt their hearts tremble. This Hu Lai was truly worthy of being the successor of the Western region's overlord, the ferocious tiger sect. Such a terrifying fire Qilin was actually easily suppressed by him with a single hand. Whoosh! Hu Lai took a step forward. The white tiger phantom in front of him roared and landed beneath his feet, carrying him to the foot of the five-fingered mountain. Hu Lai walked down from the white tiger's back and sized up the fire Qilin before him. He grinned and said, "My luck really isn't bad. I actually managed to encounter a 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar." As he spoke, Hu Lai took a step forward and reached out with his right hand. He wanted to take the fiery red crystal from the fire Qilin's neck. Whoosh! However, just as Hu Lai's right hand was about to land on the fire Qilin's neck, the sound of something breaking through the air came from behind him. It was as if it could pierce through metal and shatter stone, shattering the world. Millimeter? Hu Lai's eyes turned cold. He suddenly turned around and threw out a punch. A tiger's roar filled the sky. As this punch shot out, it seemed to condense into the phantom of a ferocious tiger that met the attack behind him. Rumble. A terrifying sound like an explosion rang out. Hu Lai threw out a punch, and the attack behind him was immediately sent flying. Only then did he realize that the thing that had broken through the air was actually a simple and unadorned spear. However, the saint might that was faintly emitted from the surface of the spear showed that it was extraordinary. This spear was a profound saint artifact. Hu Lai recognized it at a glance. Who is it? Hu Lai's face was very cold. His muffled thunderous voice exploded in the air, echoing endlessly. It shook the eardrums of many of the surrounding cultivators. Whoosh! A figure suddenly rushed out, and like a wisp of smoke, it steadily landed on the handle of the long spear that was stabbed into the ground not far away. For the sake of your own life, I think it's better for you to hand over the 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar. The figure stood at the end of the spear handle and looked down at Hu Lai. However, the words that came out of his mouth caused Hu Lai's eyes to narrow slightly, revealing a strange expression. It wasn't just Hu Lai. Many of the surrounding cultivators also revealed strange expressions. It's that Mie Fen. Isn't this Mie Fen too arrogant? He actually dares to say such arrogant words to the young master of the ferocious tiger sect. Does he think that Hu Lai is a small fry? Although this Mie Fen is strong, I don't think that this guy is stronger than Hu Lai. If he says such arrogant words now, I'm afraid that he won't be able to get off the stage later. An uproar accompanied by numerous discussions resounded in the surroundings. Everyone believed that Fen Yang had gone overboard with his arrogance. Although Fen Yang's previous performance showed that the former's strength was far beyond that of an ordinary genius of the younger generation, Hu Lai was not an ordinary genius. He was the young master of the ferocious tiger sect and a famous monstrous genius. Such a genius whose cultivation had reached the peak of the profound saint realm most likely had the battle prowess of a yin sky saint. However, this Mie Fen did not seem to put Hu Lai in his eyes at all. He was simply too arrogant, so arrogant that it was boundless. You're telling me that for the sake of my life, you want me to hand over the 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar? Do you know who I am? Are you sure you're not joking? Hu Lai's words were filled with surprise. Ever since he was born, no one had ever said such arrogant words in front of him. Moreover, the one who said such words this time was a person of the younger generation who appeared to be even younger than him. I don't give you much time. For the sake of your life, hurry up and hand over the 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar. Zhuowen waved his hand impatiently. Zhuowen's impatient appearance caused many of the surrounding cultivators to reveal looks of ridicule. They knew that Mie Fen was done for. Hu Lai would definitely not let him off. Haha. Your courage is commendable for daring to say such words in front of me, Hu Lai. However, the price you will have to pay will be extremely heavy. Hu Lai laughed out loud. Immediately, a dense and cold killing intent shot out from his eyes. He took a step forward and the white tiger illusory figure under his feet leaped into the air. It suddenly pounced and descended from the sky, rushing towards Zhuowen below. What is Mie Fen doing? Is he courting death? Not far away, everyone from the 9 Saints' heavenly gate fell silent. After Xia Bingyu regained her senses, she wanted to pounce over in an attempt to pull Zhuowen back. Junior sister, that's the young master of the ferocious tiger sect. Don't go. Han Yu reacted quickly and quickly pulled Xia Bingyu back, preventing her from going over to Zhuowen's side. There's no need for me to explain the heavy price. I'm sure you know that it's your life. The white tiger phantom was extremely fast. In an instant, it descended above Zhuowen. In the next instant, the white tiger phantom's huge tiger claws were about to land in front of Zhuowen and tear him to pieces. Mie Fen is done for. Looking at the man and tiger that were so close to each other, many of the onlookers exclaimed. They knew that Mie Fen was likely to be completely torn apart by the white tiger's sharp claws. However, Zhuowen was not afraid. He clenched his right hand into a fist in the face of the white tiger phantom that was descending from the sky. The power of his holy body burst out. Golden veins appeared all over his body. When he punched, there was a faint power that could shatter the sky and the earth. Boom! Under everyone's shocked gaze, the huge white tiger's claws shattered. The white tiger let out a sorrowful cry and collapsed. What? The white tiger bloodline armor soul was shattered. The moment the white tiger collapsed, Hu Lai jumped up and retreated. His eyes were filled with disbelief. The surroundings fell into a strange silence as everyone stared blankly at the scene before them. You don't have time to be shocked now. Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent. He jumped up with his right foot, and the 9-star 8 trigram spear was lifted up by his foot. He then punched the spear's handle. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. A terrifying sound rang out from the tip of the 9-star 8 trigram spear. Then, the 9-star 8 trigram spear shot toward Hu Lai like a meteor. Wherever the spear passed, the void collapsed inch by inch, revealing endless black cracks. Damn it! Boundless heaven and earth, subdue dragon and tiger. Hu Lai roared angrily. His huge hand slammed down again. It was like a huge 5-fingered mountain that slammed into the 9-star 8 trigram spear. Crack! The spear flew past. Even the huge hand could not block it. The huge hand collapsed. The spear streaked across like a meteor, heading toward Hu Lai's chest. Hu Lai's pupils shrank. At the critical moment, he suddenly moved down and dodged the spear. Poochie! Blood spurted out. The spear pierced through Hu Lai's collarbone. Blood splattered everywhere, and Hu Lai was sent flying by the powerful recoil. Silence. The surroundings fell into an unbearable silence. The young master of the ferocious tiger sect, a monstrous genius at the peak of the profound sage realm, had been defeated by Mie Fen in one move. Wasn't this too terrifying? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, everyone's gazes fell on Mie Fen, who was floating in the air. Everyone's gazes changed. To be able to defeat an expert like Hu Lai in one move, didn't that mean that the young man in front of them had the battle prowess of at least the Sky Shade Sage realm? Junior sister, where did Mie Fen come from? Isn't he too powerful and terrifying? All the disciples of the 9 Saints' heavenly gate were stunned. The white-robed Han Yu's throat trembled as he asked Xia Bingyu beside him in disbelief. Chapter 1558. Pure profound Saint Realm Boom. Zhuo Wen's right foot suddenly stomped, and the surrounding magma directly surged. The reverse thrust produced by the force of 30,000 kilograms acted on Zhuo Wen's legs, causing Zhuo Wen to explosively shoot out like an arrow leaving the bow. Zhuo Wen instantly flashed to arrive before Tiger Break, and then he stomped down with his foot. This stomp carried supreme divine might that collapsed the heavens and split the earth, moved mountains, and overturned seas. It was as if a single stomp of his was capable of flattening any mountain or water, drying up and cracking the ground. Bastard! Tiger Breaker roared at the sky, and the supreme sage might of a peak profound saint erupted from his body. Tiger Breaker punched out once again. This time, the white tiger roared at the heavens. The white tiger's bloodline power erupted with a terrifying energy that soared into the sky. The terrifying fist aura wrapped around the roaring white tiger phantom as it once again pressed down on Zhuowen. It's useless. This move of yours is not very effective against me, Zhuowen said indifferently as he stomped down. The white tiger phantom let out a mournful cry, and its huge tiger body directly collapsed. However, Zhuowen's attack did not change, and he continued to stomp down on Tiger Breaker. Bastard, I'll make you die miserably. Tiger Breaker roared at the sky and took out a scroll from his spirit ring. The scroll's surface was overflowing with immortal chi. There were divine dragons lying down, immortal phoenixes falling from the sky, immortal mountains appearing, and giant trees towering into the sky. Is that a sage treasure? The moment Tiger Breaker took out the scroll, many sharp-eyed cultivators in the surroundings recognized the origin of this scroll. A scroll that can emit such a powerful aura should at least be a heavenly saint-level sage treasure. I didn't expect Tiger Breaker to be forced to use such a treasure. Everyone was in an uproar. The sage treasure that Tiger Breaker took out was obviously not an ordinary sage treasure. A heavenly saint-level sage treasure was undoubtedly extremely precious. It could be said to be Tiger Breaker's strongest trump card. Once this sage treasure was used, it was as if a heavenly saint-level sage had personally appeared. How could it not be powerful? Heavenly yin holy treasure? Zhuo Wen narrowed his eyes, but a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said, "It's just a saint treasure of the heavens of Yin, yet you dare to take it out and embarrass yourself. I advise you to surrender quickly and submit to me. Perhaps I can consider letting you go." Zhuowen's words caused many of the surrounding warriors to stare intently. Wasn't Mier being too arrogant? He dared to speak so arrogantly in front of the holy treasure of the heavens of Yin. The holy treasure of the heavens of Yin was not something that Tiger Split himself could compare to. "Let's see how long you can be so arrogant." Tiger Break snorted coldly. With a stroke of his right hand, he unfurled the scroll in his hand. A beam of sacred light shot into the sky, spreading through the entire region. A strong shadow slowly stepped out of the scroll. This shadow was the heavenly saint who had nurtured the scroll. The shadow stepped on a divine dragon, a celestial phoenix, a celestial mountain, a giant tree, and finally arrived in front of Zhuowen. His facial features were blurry, but his eagle-like eyes were bursting with unprecedented essence. "Die," the shadow said lightly. His words were like thunder, an earthquake, a tsunami, and the sky collapsing. The shocking voice resounded in everyone's ears, causing them to involuntarily cover their ears. As expected of the heavenly Yin holy treasure. Just a shout from the shadow of the heavenly Yin saint has such power. "I'm afraid Mier is in danger." Everyone covered their ears. They were secretly shocked by the power of the heavenly Yin holy treasure. They could not help but mutter to themselves. "Heavenly Yin holy treasure, you must break for me." Ice and fire. Zhuowen continued to step down. At this moment, the holy symbol of ice and fire exploded with terrifying power in his eyes of ice and fire. A huge palace of ice and fire condensed behind Zhuowen and slammed down. With the help of the holy body and the holy symbol of ice and fire, the current Zhuowen was as powerful as a god and was extremely terrifying. Rumble. When the ice-fire palace landed on the Yin Sky Saint's silhouette, it exploded with a tremendous force. Then, the Yin Sky Saint's silhouette, which had been soaring into the sky, froze in mid-air. What's going on with this palace? How could it block the power of the heavenly Yin holy treasure? Tiger Break was shocked. However, something even more shocking followed. Mier landed on the top of the palace of ice and fire like a meteor. He stepped down with his right foot and golden light exploded. It was as if his foot contained the power of a sun. Rumble. The palace of ice and fire shook violently. Then, the shadow of the heavenly Yin saint let out a loud shout and collapsed into countless pieces. The scroll in Tiger Breaker's hand was covered in dense cracks. Moreover, the sound of shattering continued to ring out. In the end, the scroll was reduced to dust. Tiger Break was both shocked and furious. He threw away the shattered scroll and immediately retreated. He had no intention to fight. What kind of monster was Mier in front of him? He had used the heavenly Yin holy treasure, but it still wasn't a match for him. Instead, the heavenly Yin holy treasure had shattered. It was unbelievable. "Where do you think you're going?" An ethereal voice rang out from the void. Hu Lai looked around and discovered that there was no trace of Mier in the surrounding void. Rumble. The void behind Tiger Break cracked open. Mier took a step forward and ruthlessly kicked Tiger Break in the back. Plop. Tiger Break fell to the ground and fell flat on his face. Then, Zhuowen stepped on his back, making it impossible for Tiger Break to stand up. "What are you trying to do? I'm the young master of the fierce tiger sect. How dare you treat me like this?" Tiger Break almost went crazy. His eyes were red as he roared. "Be quiet. Do you know that you're very noisy now?" Zhuowen's eyes were cold. His right foot stepped on Tiger Break's back, causing the latter to spit out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. Tiger Break was so frightened that he no longer dared to speak carelessly. "Wouldn't it have been better if you had handed over the burning flame nectar earlier? Then, you wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state," Zhuowen said indifferently. Tiger Break was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. How could he have known that Mier was so powerful that even his sacred treasure of Yin Sky couldn't defeat him? It was unbelievable. "Who are you? You're so young, yet you can suppress me. There shouldn't be someone like you in the southern barbarian region. Or rather, There shouldn't be someone as monstrous as you in the 4 regions. Could it be that you're from the middle region? Tiger Break looked pensive as he asked Zhuowen. A loser like you doesn't have the right to ask questions in front of me. Know your place. Zhuowen stepped on Tiger Break's back, causing him to spit out another mouthful of blood. As for Tiger Break's question, Zhuowen didn't answer it directly. It was Zhuowen's attitude that made Tiger Break believe that the mysterious Miafen before him was very likely a disciple of some major force in the middle region. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him, the #1 genius of the western region, to defeat him so easily. Roar! A fierce tiger roar resounded. Countless tiger silhouettes soared into the sky from under Zhuowen's feet, filling the entire sky. A surging energy erupted from under Zhuowen's feet like a volcano. Thud, thud, thud. Under this huge force, Zhuowen could not help but retreat again and again as he stared at Hu Lai, who was surrounded by countless tiger shadows in shock. Roar! Tiger Break roared. Under everyone's shocked gazes, he quickly fled into the distance. He was so fast that not even his shadow could be seen. So fast. Looks like Tiger Break has used some sort of secret technique. If it weren't for the special environment of the burning sky and boiling sea, I could still use the laws of the void to chase after him. Unfortunately, the burning sky and boiling sea's environment greatly restricted the laws of the void. Zhuowen could only use the void leap for short distances. He was powerless for long distances, so after Tiger Break disappeared, Zhuowen didn't chase after him. After all, the 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar was still here. If Zhuowen left, it would probably be taken away immediately. Whoosh! Zhuowen landed on the fire Qilin at the foot of the mountain. His right hand reached into the fire Qilin's neck and pulled out the fiery red crystal. Roar! The fire Qilin let out a sorrowful cry. After the fiery red crystal left its body, it turned into countless sparks and scattered. Zhuowen carefully stared at the crystal in his palm, his eyes blazing. The crystal was in the shape of a Qilin. It was lifelike and beautiful. Many cultivators in the surroundings stared enviously at the crystal in Zhuowen's hand. However, no one dared to approach Zhuowen. After all, even Tiger Break wasn't his opponent. They would only be courting death if they went up against him. I wonder if this 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar will be able to raise my cultivation to the next level. As he spoke, Zhuowen clenched his right hand. The Qilin crystal shattered. The fiery red liquid inside gushed out, condensing into a palm-sized fire Qilin. Roar! The small and exquisite fire Qilin roared. Its fiery eyes were filled with fear. It immediately planned to flee. Little guy, you're already in my palm. You still want to escape? Zhuowen grinned. With a wave of his right hand, the 4-killer sacred sword array surged out. It arranged itself around him, forming a sword-shaped prison. Woo-woo! The fire Qilin crashed into the surface of the prison. It immediately howled and retreated. It was unable to break through the shackles of the 4-killer sacred sword array. Zhuowen grabbed with his hand, and the small and exquisite fire Qilin was caught in his palm. After that, he crushed it, causing countless amounts of fiery red liquid to disperse like raindrops, and all of it was absorbed by the apertures on Zhuowen's body. What rich fire attribute energy! Zhuowen only felt his entire body warm up and his cheeks flushed red. The 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar flowed through his meridians in a clockwise direction and gathered in Zhuowen's dantian, causing the saint energy in Zhuowen's dantian to increase at an unbelievable rate. Furthermore, the rate at which his saint energy was increasing was getting faster and faster. In the end, Zhuowen's body rumbled like the 9 heavens' profound thunder. His aura had undergone a transformation in an instant, and it was now hundreds of times stronger than before. I broke through to the 4th pure profound saint realm. Zhuowen was in high spirits. His eyes shone with a divine light. The aura on his body was much more terrifying than that of an ordinary profound saint. This Miafen was only at the glimpse profound saint realm at the beginning. I actually lost to a glimpse profound saint realm guy. Damn it, is this guy abnormal? Far away from the place where Zhuowen had broken through, Hu Lai's rather miserable figure finally appeared. His gaze fell on Zhuowen's back. His eyes were filled with shock. Chapter 1559. 5,000-year burning flame jade cream. After advancing to the pure profound saint realm, Zhuowen's entire body burst with golden light. His saint aura was vast and mighty, like an ancient saint emperor, heroic and majestic. Miefeng was only at the glimpse profound saint realm before he advanced. How did he defeat Hu Lai? As soon as Zhuowen broke through, the aura of the glimpse profound saint realm hidden in his body immediately leaked out. Many cultivators in the surroundings felt Zhuowen's aura, and they were all moved. Hu Lai was a terrifying peak profound saint realm expert at the 5th profound shattering profound saint realm. His battle prowess surpassed his own, but even so, he was still defeated by Miefeng, who was only at the glimpse profound saint realm. A mere glimpse profound saint realm expert was actually able to defeat a shattering profound saint realm expert like Hu Lai, who was 2 levels higher than him. What kind of monster was this? The enormous saint aura slowly withdrew, and the golden light on Zhuowen's body gradually dissipated. Zhuowen turned his head slightly and said indifferently, "Still not going to scram? If you don't scram, I don't mind stepping on you again." As soon as these words came out, Hu Lai's expression turned ugly. In the end, he coldly snorted and immediately left this place. He also knew that Miefeng might be able to detect him at such a distance, but he also estimated that he could advance or retreat at this distance. Even if Miefeng wanted to chase after him, he could rely on a secret technique to escape again, but the price would be great. Zhuowen also knew that Hu Lai had a strange escape secret technique, so even if he chased after him, he might not be able to catch up. After Hu Lai left, Zhuowen took a step forward and arrived at Jiang Liqing and Prince Raven, who were still kneeling on the ground. Zhuowen indifferently stepped on the 2 of them and said, "Now, the 2 of you have 2 choices. One is to become my mount and obey my orders. The second choice is to die." "What? You want me to be stepped on by you and become your mount?" "Miefeng, don't go too far." Little virtuous King Jiang Liqing was furious, and the veins on his forehead bulged. He couldn't help but shout angrily. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a hand appeared beside his face and slapped him fiercely, causing Jiang Liqing to be stunned. "Since you're so reserved, then it's a pity. You can go to hell first." Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent. He clenched his right hand and the long spear appeared in his hand. Without hesitation, he thrust it towards Jiang Liqing's forehead as if he wanted to pierce through it completely. "No. I'll compromise, don't kill me." Under the threat of the sharp tip of the spear, the restraint in Jiang Liqing's heart immediately disappeared and he shamelessly shouted out loud, "Wouldn't it have been better if you did this earlier?" Zhuowen withdrew his spear and stepped on Jiang Liqing's back. As for Prince Raven, his face was ashen and he did not say a word. He was much more sensible than Jiang Liqing. He knew very well that he was now a fish on the chopping block, while Miefeng was in front of him. His life was in Miefeng's hands. If he dared to disobey Miefeng's orders, he would die miserably. Prince Raven was very sure of this. It was not the first time he had dealt with Miefeng. In a sense, Miefeng was the same kind of person as him. He was unscrupulous and decisive in some matters. Such a person was the most terrifying. Zhuowen's voice wasn't soft, and many people in the surroundings heard it clearly. Soon after, everyone revealed a strange expression, especially when they looked at the Dark Crow Crown Prince and Jiang Liqing, who were being stepped on. Their gazes were extremely strange. Prince Raven and Jiang Liqing were the top geniuses of the southern barbarian lands. Now, under the threat of life and death, they readily compromised. This made many people's jaws drop. Rumble. Suddenly, a muffled thunder-like sound rang out in the entire burning sky and boiling sea. Then, the surrounding sea of magma began to roll violently, as if something was coming out from the depths of the burning sky and boiling sea. "Kid. The 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar is about to appear. Bathing Ze is currently in the depths of the burning sky and boiling sea, trying to get the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar out," Blackie suddenly said. Hearing this, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Do you want me to go over now?" However, Blackie shook his head and said, "No need. The 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar is not simple. It will not be easy for the bathing swamp to completely subdue the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar. You can act according to the situation later. Crash. As soon as Xiao Hei's voice fell, the entire burning sky and boiling sea collapsed. The endless magma in the surroundings dissipated and all of it gathered in the deepest part of the burning sky and boiling sea. In an instant, those cultivators who had entered the burning sky and boiling sea appeared in the sky above the burning sky plaza. They were confused as well. They were also a little surprised that such an abnormality would suddenly occur in the burning sky and boiling sea. Look over there, the magma is all gathering in that direction. A cry of surprise rang out. Immediately, a few sharp-eyed cultivators immediately pointed towards the depths of the burning sky and boiling sea. There was a black spiral whirlpool. The magma in the entire burning sky and boiling sea was all gathering in the black whirlpool. The black whirlpool was also extraordinary. Like a giant whale sucking in water, it was endless. The magma within hundreds of thousands of miles of the burning sky and boiling sea was not rejected and was all absorbed by it. Squeak! An earth-shattering cry of a phoenix resounded. Then, the black vortex began to distort and deform, spewing out endless flames. Amidst the endless flames, a huge phoenix stretched out its neck and let out a long cry as it was reborn from the flames. This phoenix was tens of thousands of feet in size. When it spread its wings, it seemed to envelop the entire burning sky city and burn it. It looked extremely terrifying. In between the eyebrows of this fire phoenix, there was a phoenix-shaped crystal that flickered with a fiery red light. The light transformed into phoenix shadows, and endless phoenix cries resounded. That should be the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar, right? It's actually in the form of a phoenix. It looks really intimidating. Seeing the huge phoenix shadow, many people in the sky were moved. However, they did not immediately rush up. They could feel that this huge phoenix was not to be trifled with. The fire chilene that was formed by the 3,000-year-old burning flame nectar was already troublesome enough, not to mention the fire phoenix that was formed by the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar. Without a doubt, this fire phoenix was definitely much more terrifying than the fire chilene. Squeak! The fire phoenix spread its wings and suddenly circled in the air. The terrifying hurricane that swept up by its wings blew the surrounding cultivators to the point that they could not stand steadily. There were even some unlucky fellows who were directly blown away and smashed onto the ground. Dodge! Zhuoan stepped on Prince Raven and Jiang Liqing's bodies and coldly ordered. Jiang Liqing and Prince Raven's faces were filled with humiliation, but they did not disobey Zhuoan's words. They used their hands and feet to sweep through the void. Their posture was like that of apes and monkeys, which looked particularly funny, but their speed was not slow. The scene of Zhuoan stepping on Jiang Liqing and Prince Raven's bodies quickly attracted the attention of countless people around. Originally, their attention was focused on the fire phoenix. Now that the fire phoenix had appeared, many people's attention fell on this funny scene. Isn't that Mie Fen? Isn't this Mie Fen stepping on Prince Raven and Jiang Liqing? Could it be that Mie Fen is using the Dark Crow Crown Prince and Jiang Liqing as mounts? Stepping on their bodies is too crazy. I wonder what Yin Wu Shui and Jiang Xian Wang will think when they see this. Around the burning sky square, countless warriors stared blankly at this scene. Prince Raven and Jiang Liqing were both influential figures in the southern barbarian lands. They were also famous monstrous geniuses in the southern barbarian lands. Now, these two were being stepped on by Mie Fen and treated as mounts. This contrast was too big. Everyone subconsciously thought that they had seen wrongly. Of course, when they rubbed their eyes, they found that what they saw was not an illusion, but reality. Crack! On the Jiang Xian family's seat, Jiang Xian Wang suddenly crushed the armrest. His eyes were fixed on Jiang Liqing, who was being stepped on, and his eyes began to fill with anger. You are courting death. How dare you trample on the successor of my Dark Crow sect? A sinister voice suddenly came from a floating crack. The Dark Crow sect's hierarch, Yin Wu Shui, who was wearing a black robe, slammed the table and stood up. Countless palm-sized crows surrounded his body and carried him towards Zhuoan. Yin Wu Shui is furious. Prince Raven is being trampled on like this. It would be strange if Yin Wu Shui is not angry. Many people grinned and gloated. The Dark Crow sect was famous in the southern barbarian lands, but most of the news was negative. It could be said that the Dark Crow sect had committed all kinds of atrocities in the southern barbarian lands. Many warriors did not have a good impression of the Dark Crow sect. This was also the reason why many warriors felt happy when Nie Fen stepped on Prince Raven. Let go of Licheng. Jiangxian Wang could not bear it anymore. He took a step forward and stepped on the void with the experts of the Jiangxian family. They also rushed towards Zhuoan. In a flash, the experts of the Jiangxian family and the Dark Crow sect surrounded Zhuoan. Their eyes were like tigers staring at their prey with hostility. Zhuoan coldly looked at the people of the Jiangxian family and the Dark Crow sect. He then looked at Zhu Tianzong, who was standing in front of the Burning Sky Palace, and said with a smile, "Sect Master Zhu, these two old men are shameless. They actually interfered in the sacred ceremony of burning the sky and boiling the sea. The burning sky and boiling the sea is a competition between the younger generation. These two old men shamelessly wanted to deal with me. I think Sect Master Zhu should also intervene." After these words came out, many people's eyes fell on Zhu Tianzong. They all knew that Zhu Tianzong was the one in charge of this ceremony. He had the final right to explain. Zhu Tianzong slightly lowered his head as if he did not pay attention to Zhuoan. "Humph. This is only our private matter. What does it have to do with burning the sky and boiling the sea? You little bastard, your ability to distort the truth is not bad." Yin Wu Shui coldly said. Jiangxian Wang did not say anything. However, looking at his expression, he seemed to agree with Yin Wu Shui's words. "Sect Master Zhu, are you deaf?" Zhuoan squinted his eyes and raised his voice. "How dare you be so arrogant? People like you are very rare nowadays. You're just relying on your guards. What qualifications do you have to be arrogant in front of me?" Yin Wu Shui said coldly. Yin Wu Shui was extremely disdainful. Zhuoan's aura was only at the pure profound saint realm. Such a cultivation level was just like an ant in front of a Yin Sky Saint realm expert. He could crush him with a flip of his hand. Zhuoan was too lazy to pay attention to Yin Wu Shui's mockery. At this moment, his gaze fell on the huge fire phoenix in the distance. The fire phoenix's power was very terrifying. Many cultivators in the sky had already been seriously injured by the fire phoenix's attack. Some had died, some had fled, and some had hidden far away. However, there was a figure that went in the opposite direction. Following the flow of the crowd, he flew towards the intimidating fire phoenix. Waves of extremely cold ice and snow fell from the sky, sprinkling over the entire horizon. "It's the young palace master of the Snow Palace, Xiu Ziyi. Does he intend to face the terrifying fire phoenix alone?" Many cultivators in the surroundings recognized the figure who was rushing towards the fire phoenix. Even Zhuoan's gaze fell on Xiu Ziyi. The fire phoenix's power was very strong. Even Zhuoan himself felt a little tricky. Zhuoan knew that with Xiu Ziyi's cultivation level, it was not enough to subdue the fire phoenix alone. With a wave of his sleeve, there was a clanging sound as fiery red chains flew out from his sleeve. The surface of these chains was burning with raging flames, growing and multiplying endlessly. The surface of the chain was engraved with all kinds of strange runes. When the chain appeared, the fire phoenix that was roaring wantonly immediately became anxious. It flapped its wings, wanting to get away from the chain. "Seal." Xiu Ziyi lightly spat out. Shortly after, the fiery red chain soared into the sky. It was densely packed like ants as it constantly spread out, sealing off all the escape routes of the fire phoenix. Squeak. The fire phoenix stretched its neck and gave a long cry. It spread its wings, wanting to break through the defensive line of the chain. However, when it pounced towards the edge of the chain, it activated the countless divine runes on the chain. The fire phoenix seemed to be extremely afraid of the power of the divine runes, and quickly moved away from the edge of the chain. Clang. The corner of Xiao Zi's mouth slightly curled up. With a clench of his right hand, the fiery red chain started to converge towards the center. As the chain contracted, the space for the fire phoenix to dodge became smaller and smaller. In the end, it was tightly bound by the chain, unable to move. Whoosh! Xiao Zi took a step forward and arrived between the fire phoenix's eyebrows. With a suction force from his right hand, he took the crystal between the fire phoenix's eyebrows. After losing the crystal, the fire phoenix collapsed into countless sparks and was annihilated by the chain. 5,000 years of burning flame nectar was obtained just like that. What was Xiao Zi's method just now? The fire phoenix was actually unable to resist the chain. From the moment Xiao Zi faced the fire phoenix alone to the moment the fire phoenix was trapped and the crystal between its eyebrows was taken out, it had only been 10 breaths of time. The cultivators who had experienced the terror of the fire phoenix all revealed looks of disbelief. They had experienced the fire phoenix's attacks and knew that it was not something that an ordinary profound sage could deal with. Even an ordinary heavenly sage might not be able to smoothly subdue it. Although Xiao Zi was very talented and powerful, possessing the strength of a Sky Yin Sage Realm expert at the peak of the profound Sage Realm, such strength was not enough to subdue the fire phoenix. The reason why the fire phoenix was so easily subdued was mainly because of the fiery red chain that came out of Xiao Zi's sleeve. That thing was probably secretly given to Xiao Zi by Zhu Tianzong. Zhuoan glanced at Zhu Tianzong, who was not far away. After seeing the smile on Zhu Tianzong's face, Zhuoan narrowed his eyes and thought of something. The last time the burning heavens and boiling sea opened, Zhu Tianzong had obtained the 5,000 years of burning flame nectar from it. Naturally, he was quite familiar with the characteristics of the burning flame nectar. Therefore, it was not surprising that he had given the method to restrain the burning flame nectar to Xiao Zi. At this moment, Xiao Zi's eyes were full of excitement as he stared at the lifelike phoenix crystal in his palm. Inside the crystal, a fiery red liquid was tumbling, revealing the image of a phoenix. At the same time, it was accompanied by the cry of a phoenix. This was the 5,000 years of burning flame nectar. Ha ha! Congratulations, nephew, for obtaining the 5,000 years of burning flame nectar. When Xiao Zi held the phoenix crystal, Zhu Tianzong couldn't help but clap his hands and cheer. Behind Zhu Tianzong, the palace master of the Snow Palace, Yuan Jibai, also revealed a gorgeous smile on her originally cold face. Xiao Zi had placed a lot of hopes and expectations on the Snow Palace. As the palace master of the Snow Palace, Yuan Jibai naturally hoped that Xiao Zi would become stronger and stronger. And this 5,000 years of burning flame nectar had the powerful effect of allowing a peak profound sage to break through to the heaven sage realm. How could Yuan Jibai not be happy for Xiao Zi? Hu Shanshan frowned slightly as he stared at the slightly weakened Hu Lai beside him. He said somewhat unhappily, "Hu Lai, you actually used the heavenly tiger escape technique. Could it be that you were forced into this state by Xiao Zi?" Hu Lai's eyes flickered. It was really difficult to talk about the fact that he had been defeated by Mie Fen. If Mie Fen had been a powerhouse of the sacred sky realm, he wouldn't have felt ashamed if he said that he had been defeated by Mie Fen. However, Mie Fen's cultivation was lower than his, and he had lost to him. This was a great loss of face. Seeing Hu Lai's hesitant look, Hu Shanshan's face turned ashen. He coldly snorted and said, "There's nothing shameful about being defeated by Xiao Zi. Xiao Zi's talent is indeed very strong. He has a chance to surpass Sister Jibai in the future." Hu Lai's face flushed red as he stammered, "I didn't lose to Xiao Zi. Or rather, I didn't encounter Xiao Zi in the burning heavens and boiling sea." "What? Not Xiao Zi? Then who was it?" Hu Shanshan couldn't help but be dumbfounded as he asked Hu Lai in a low voice. It was Mie Fen." Hu Lai stuttered for a long time before finally revealing the real culprit. "That Mie Fen? That Mie Fen is only at the pure profound sage realm. And don't you have the sacred sky treasure on you? How could you lose?" Hu Shanshan said in surprise. Hu Lai's face turned even redder, but he still said, "I did use the sacred sky treasure in the end, but it was broken by Mie Fen." "What? It was broken by Mie Fen? Could it be that Miafen has an even more powerful sacred treasure on him? Hu Shanshan's expression became serious. Hu Lai stole a glance at Hu Shanshan and sighed softly. It was broken by that guy with his bare hands. That guy's body is very terrifying. Hu Shanshan discovered that he was actually speechless at this moment. He could accept that Hu Lai had lost to Miafen, whose cultivation was lower than his. Even if Hu Lai had used the sacred sky treasure and still lost, he could still accept it. However, the only thing he could not accept was that Miafen had actually broken the sacred sky treasure with his bare hands. This was simply too inconceivable. How could the strength of the physical body be so strong that even the sacred sky treasure could be broken with his bare hands? This directly overturned Hu Shanshan's worldview and values. Sect Master, Hu Lai said in shame. Chapter 1561. Peachwood Immortal slaying sword Xiu floated in the air, enjoying the envious gazes of the people below. His chin was slightly raised, and his eyes were filled with pride. He knew that at this moment, he was the biggest winner of this burning the heavens and boiling the seas. He was fully deserving of the title of main character. He was even looking at Miafen, who was stepping on Prince Raven and Jiang Licheng. Although he didn't say anything, his expression made his intentions clear. It seems that the Burning Heavens sect and the Snow Palace have long been in cahoots. If I'm not wrong, the fiery red chain that Xiu Ziyi used just now should have been given to him by Sect Master Zhu, right? Isn't burning the heavens and boiling the seas meant for the juniors present? Now that Sect Master Zhu has opened the door for Xiu Ziyi, isn't it unreasonable? Suddenly, an indifferent and untimely voice slowly sounded, attracting the attention of the surrounding people. Everyone looked over and found that the one who spoke was none other than Miafen, who was stepping on Prince Raven and Jiang Licheng. Being stared at by so many cultivators at once, even Jiang Licheng and Prince Raven, who had good temperaments, couldn't help but blush. After all, their current postures looked a little sullen. Of course, Zhuo Wen's words were indeed reasonable. Anyone could see that the Fire Phoenix was not simple. Even if Xiu Ziyi's talent was extremely high and he was extremely strong, he was still only at the peak of the profound sage realm. It would not be easy to subdue a Fire Phoenix. But now, Xiu Ziyi had relied on the fiery red chain to completely subdue the Fire Phoenix in 10 breaths of time. This made people suspect that there was something fishy going on. And after Zhuowen said this, many people came to their senses and looked at Xiu Ziyi and the Burning Heavens sect with strange gazes. Xiu Ziyi slowly turned his head and coldly stared at Zhuowen, saying, "Colluding? You really know how to slander others. I was the one who subdued the 5,000 years old burning flame nectar. How can you slander me and the Burning Heavens sect like this? How should I punish you?" After saying this, Xiu Ziyi suddenly took a step forward, and a terrifying snowstorm descended from the sky. It was an extremely magnificent sight. Zhu Tianzong, who was originally standing in the Burning Heaven Hall, slowly narrowed his eyes and said, "Miafen, you can't speak such baseless words. Our Burning Heaven sect has always been impartial. If you dare to speak such slanderous words, don't blame this old one for righteously. And nephew Xiu Yin, as Xiu Ziyi. As you said, Xiu Ziyi. Xiu Xiu Xiu, Xiu. Xiu Xiu Xiu. Xiu Xiu Ziyi. Xiu, Xiu. Xiu Xiu Lun. Xiu Xiu Xiu. Xiu 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 Xiu, Xiu Xiu Xiu." The leaders of these forces looked at each other. In the end, they didn't dare to stand out and defy Zhu Tianzong. They all nodded and agreed. Looking at everyone's reaction, Zhu Tianzong smiled and said, "Everyone has no objections." Could it be that you, Miafen, have an objection? However, Yu Shi'ai sneered and said, "Looks like it's just jealousy causing mischief. You're just a coward who can't eat grapes and say the grapes are sour." Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and stared at Yu Ziyi. "You're saying that I'm sour grapes because I can't eat them? All right then, this 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar will be yours to subdue. However, Sect Master Zhu didn't say that I can't snatch it from your hands, right?" Xiu Ziyi was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. "You want to snatch the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar from my hands? Just you. What a joke. Xiao Ziyi laughed loudly, and there was some disdain in his eyes. Obviously, he looked down on Miafen. After all, the latter was only at the pure profound saint realm, which was a small realm lower than him. How could such a cultivation be his match? Many of the surrounding people had strange looks on their faces. Obviously, Miafen's suggestion of forceful robbery had surprised them. However, Hu Lai, who was standing behind the ferocious tiger sect master, had a strange look on his face. He had fought with Miafen before, and he knew that Miafen was so terrifying that he couldn't breathe. There was no doubt that if Miafen and Xiao Ziyi were to fight, Xiao Ziyi would lose miserably. Although Hu Lai hadn't fought with Xiao Ziyi before, he knew that even if Xiao Ziyi was stronger than him, there was a limit to how much stronger he was. However, Miafen had directly suppressed him to the point that he couldn't breathe. There was no doubt that his battle strength wasn't on the same level as Miafen. Hu Hanshan had a strange look on his face. He had heard about how terrifying Miafen was from Hu Lai. If Xiao Ziyi were to fight with Miafen, he wouldn't have a good ending. However, Hu Hanshan didn't speak carelessly about Miafen, and he couldn't be bothered to remind Xiao Ziyi. He wasn't related to Xiao Ziyi, and Hu Lai's defeat at Miafen's hands wasn't a glorious matter. Naturally, he wouldn't speak carelessly. Yuan Jibai, the palace master of Snow Palace, and Zhu Tianzong, the sect master of Burning Heaven sect, raised the corners of their mouths. The two of them knew Xiao Ziyi's strength very well. To a certain extent, Xiao Ziyi was even stronger than Hu Lai. He possessed the bloodline of the Black Tortoise and had mastered many nomological laws. Apart from the monstrous geniuses of the Central Region, no one in the younger generation of the other four major regions could compare to him. Miafen seemed to have an unknown origin, and his strength seemed to be pretty good. However, in the eyes of Yuan Jibai and Zhu Tianzong, Miafen wasn't Xiao Ziyi's match. Mu Chunxue, who was standing not far away, wrinkled her nose. She couldn't help but worry about Miafen. What's wrong with me? I don't know Miafen, so why am I worried about him? Mu Chunxue muttered to herself. At the same time, she took out the mysterious underworld pearl and examined it carefully. Ever since she had woken up in the Saint Lady Pavilion, the black pearl had been by her side. The mysterious underworld pearl was actually of little value to her. It couldn't provide her with any protection at all. However, Mu Chunxue couldn't bear to throw it away. She subconsciously felt that the mysterious underworld pearl was very important to her. It was given to her by a very, very important person. However, when she tried to recall who it was, she couldn't remember. She only felt a splitting headache. Is this pearl related to Miafen? Mu Chunxue's beautiful eyes wrinkled as she muttered softly. After Xiao Ziyi finished laughing, he held the phoenix crystal in his right hand and said to Zhuowen in a provocative manner, "Since you want to snatch this 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar, then come at me. However, I won't care if you lose your life because of it." The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up slightly as he gazed at Yu Shiai's fearless expression, and he said, "That's what you said. Then I'll directly rob you. Don't blame me if you die at that time." As he spoke, Zhuowen's feet suddenly stomped on the ground, and he shot explosively towards Bathing Lake like an arrow that had left the bow. At the same time, he waved his right hand, and the four-killer sacred sword formation flew out from his spirit ring and revolved around his body like a loyal guard, protecting and escorting him. Xiao Ziyi's right hand withdrew and kept the phoenix crystal. Then, he stomped his right foot in the air and a snowstorm swept across the sky. A huge black tortoise shadow appeared behind Xiao Ziyi. "I'll finish you in one move." As he spoke, Xiao Ziyi pressed his right hand down. The black tortoise shadow behind him roared towards the sky. The snake's head and tail swept across the sky, bringing with it a terrifying snowstorm. The snowstorm was extremely vast and instantly enveloped Zhuowen's figure, causing everyone to be unable to see Zhuowen's figure clearly. Die. Xiao Ziyi didn't hold back at all and used his full strength. He stepped out and the snake's head drilled into the snowstorm, wanting to completely strangle Zhuowen inside. At the same time, Xiao Ziyi also arrived at the wind cave above the snowstorm. He pressed his right hand down and the black tortoise's huge body drilled into it. Like a meat grinder, the snowstorm was completely crushed. How terrifying. Xiao Ziyi used his full strength right from the start. Miefen's life is in danger. The surrounding people were moved. Xiao Ziyi's strength was indeed terrifying. Just the Black Tortoise's bloodline power was enough to fight against a saint of the Yin Sky Saint realm. He. Your young master is about to die. If you know what's good for you, you'd better let Yin Yang and Jiang Lichen go. Yin Wu Shui stared at Lowe's and said coldly. When Zhuoan challenged Xiao Ziyi, he had handed Prince Raven and Jiang Lichen over to Lowe's. Therefore, Jiang Xian Wang and Yin Wu Shui were still facing off against Lowe's. Because the hostages were in the hands of the other party, the two of them didn't dare to act recklessly. The one dying is not my young master, but Xiao Ziyi. Lowe's sneered. No one knew Zhuoan's strength better than him. That guy's strength was comparable to the young Sky Saint realm, or even stronger than that. A genius like Xiao Ziyi was as insignificant as an ant to Zhuoan. It was simply impossible for him to compete with Zhuoan. You're lying through your teeth. Yin Wu Shui's eyes were cold. Before he could finish his words, there was an earth-shaking muffled sound. Then, the violent black tortoise phantom suddenly let out a violent wail when it was smashed into the center of the blizzard. Then, the huge black tortoise phantom was directly pierced by long swords in front of everyone's eyes. At the same time, rays of sword light slashed down, and the black tortoise phantom was directly shattered into nothingness. The moment the divine swords shattered the black tortoise phantom, they tacitly combined together and finally formed a huge light sword that pierced through the sky. Slash. The moment the huge light sword formed, an indifferent voice sounded. Then, the light sword slashed down from the sky, carrying with it a terrifying aura. When the black tortoise phantom was broken, Xiao Ziyi felt a fishy sweetness and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he didn't have time to care about the shock in his heart. With a wave of his sleeve, he roared and took out a simple wooden sword from his spirit ring. The wooden sword looked ordinary, but its surface was engraved with various runes. That's the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword. Yuan Jibai's beautiful eyes frowned. The Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword was a young Sky Saint treasure that she had given to Xiao Ziyi to save his life. This thing was extremely precious. Even though the Ice Snow Palace was large, they didn't have many treasures of this level. Chapter 1562. Instant defeat. It's the heavenly young sacred treasure. As expected of the Snow Palace. They actually gave such a sacred treasure to Bathing Ziyi. How rich. This Miefen is really something. He actually forced Bathing Ziyi to use the heavenly young sacred treasure. However, the power of the heavenly young sacred treasure is equivalent to the heavenly young sacred realm. I'm afraid Miefen won't be able to gain any advantage. Feeling the power erupting from the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword, many knowledgeable warriors in the surroundings were visibly moved. Bathing Ziyi's eyes were ferocious. He formed a sword seal with his right hand and pointed at the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. Then, the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword emitted a monstrous sword light like a violent ocean. Countless sword lights gathered and finally formed a majestic shadow. The shadow waved his right hand, and the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword was held in his hand. That power was like that of a peerless swordsman who could slay immortals. When the Peachwood appears, there are no immortals in the heavens. Bathing Lake's emotionless voice rang out. That imposing figure suddenly stepped out. His body was covered with sword light, and the Peachwood was in his hand. With a single slash, sword light filled the sky and covering the earth. The power of this sword moved even the experts of the older generation like Zhu Tianzong, Hu Bangshan, and Yuan Jibai. Rumble. The majestic phantom waved his right hand and unleashed a sword ray that slammed into the huge sword of light formed by the 4-kill sacred sword formation. An earth-shattering sound reverberated through the entire sky. The huge sword of light formed by the 4-kill sacred sword formation directly collapsed, turning back into sacred swords that dimmed and returned to Zhuowen's body. Heavenly young sacred treasure? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He was a little surprised. Bathing Ziyi's value was higher than Tiger Fisher's. After all, the latter's strongest trump card was the heavenly yin sacred treasure. However, Bathing Ze had the heavenly young sacred treasure, which was one level higher. It was really shocking. You're finished. Bathing Ze was high up in the air, hovering above the majestic illusory figure. Looking down at Zhuowen, his eyes were filled with indifference. The peach wood immortal slaying sword was a life-saving item given to him by Yuan Jibai. There were only a few treasures like this in the Snow Palace. It was extremely precious. However, Xiu Ziyi did not expect that Mie Fen would force him to use his final trump card. This was something he had not expected, but at the same time, his eyes were filled with killing intent. Facing Mie Fen, whose cultivation was lower than his, he was forced into such a situation. This was an absolute humiliation for him, so he had to make Mie Fen pay a heavy price. Thinking of this, Xiu Ziyi suddenly merged into the imposing shadow. His right hand gripped the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword as if he was in control of all the power of the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword. Slash. Bathing Ze took a step forward and slashed out with his sword. Sword light filled the sky as if it was going to tear the sky apart. It was extremely terrifying. In the face of this terrifying sword light, Zhuowen waved his right hand and put away the 4-kill sacred sword array. He took a deep breath and a blazing golden light erupted from his body. Within this golden light, 2 golden runes appeared and surged out from the surface of his skin. They began to revolve around his body, like 2 stars that were constantly rotating. Putting away the sacred weapon, he intends to use his physical body to resist. Is Mie Fen crazy? Seeing Zhuowen's action, many warriors exclaimed in their hearts. They felt that Mie Fen must have lost his mind. Although many cultivators knew that the exterminating incineration body was indeed unusual, it was basically impossible for it to reach the level of a sacred solar treasure. Or, it could be said that other cultivators simply didn't believe that the body could resist a sacred solar treasure. Whoosh! The sword light arrived in an instant and was only a few inches away from Zhuowen's forehead. The sharp wind whistled past and blew Zhuowen's hair into a mess. But Zhuowen was not afraid. He struck out with his right hand and the 2 golden runes around him suddenly expanded until they were dozens of feet long. They stood in front of Zhuowen like 2 terrifying golden walls. Boom! The sword light slammed into the golden runes and was annihilated. However, the golden runes were not damaged at all and remained intact. What? What is this? It actually blocked the full power of the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword. Xiu Ziyi's pupils shrank and his body trembled in extreme shock. The solar sacred treasure is only SOSO. Zhuowen's right hand slammed into the 2 golden runes in front of him. Then, the golden runes shot into the sky like 2 golden stars and rushed toward Xiu Ziyi. At the same time, Zhuowen leaped up and rushed toward Xiu Ziyi like a fierce tiger. Damn it! Xiu Ziyi cursed and slashed out with the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword. Countless sword lights piled together like a crescent moon hanging in the sky. Clang clang clang. However, the 2 golden runes were as hard as iron. The terrifying sword light from the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword only created sparks when it landed on the surface of the golden runes. This made Xiu Ziyi's mood even worse. Fortunately, the impact of the sword light slowed down the speed of the golden runes. Boom! However, Zhuowen arrived behind the golden runes and struck out with his palm. The 2 golden runes sped up and arrived in front of Xiu Ziyi in an instant. Clang! Xiu Ziyi slashed out with his sword and the world darkened, but when it landed on the golden runes, it was all bark and no bite. Watch me smash your Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword. Zhuowen spat out these words indifferently. He picked up a piece of golden pattern and threw it at Bathing Swamp. The golden runes were as heavy as Mount Tai. Xiu Ziyi blocked with his sword but was still pushed back by the enormous force, his blood boiling. As Xiu Ziyi retreated, Zhuowen didn't slow down. He picked up another golden rune and smashed it again. As Zhuowen smashed it again and again, Xiu Ziyi was pushed back again and again. Even though the Peachwood Immortal Slaying Sword was mighty and mighty, it was still suppressed by the 9 revolution golden runes. Moreover, the sacred young treasure wasn't a sacred young treasure. Its power would gradually weaken as it was used. Following Zhuowen's random smashing, The brilliance on the surface of the peachwood immortal slaying sword in Shizede's hand completely dimmed. Crack! A shattering sound resounded through the sky as Xiu retreated several hundred steps. Everyone's eyes fell on Xiu's hand. They were shocked to find that the peachwood immortal slaying sword in Xiu's hand was covered in cracks, as if it would collapse at any moment. The sacred young treasure's power is about to run out. What kind of monster is Miefen? He's only relying on his physical strength and the 2 golden runes to reduce Xiu's peachwood immortal slaying sword to this state. Everyone was in an uproar. There was no need to continue the battle. They already knew the final result. Miefen would definitely win. Xiu was trembling all over. A trace of blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. His surging blood couldn't calm down for a long time. When he saw the broken peachwood immortal slaying sword in his hand, he began to tremble in fear. Miefen was a monster. He'd taken the sacred young treasure head-on with his physical strength and reduced his peachwood immortal slaying sword to this state. Swoosh! The wind howled, lifting Xiu's robes and flapping them loudly. Xiu jerked his head up and was horrified to find that Miefen was hovering above him, looking down at him indifferently. His eyes were emotionless and indifferent to life. No! With a furious roar, Zhu Baozi slashed out with his peachwood immortal sword. A crescent-shaped sword radiance shot toward Zhuowen. However, Zhuowen didn't care. He clenched his right hand and 2 golden runes circled around it, forming a golden barrier. He punched out and the crescent-shaped sword light collapsed. Fart! Xiu spat out a mouthful of blood. The peachwood immortal slaying sword in his hand completely collapsed and he was sent flying. Whoosh! Zhuowen took a step forward, and like an arrow leaving the bow, he shot explosively towards Xianze, who was flying backwards. However, just as Zhuowen was about to reach Xiu, a terrifying black flame shot up into the sky and blocked Zhuowen's path. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and punched out with his right fist, smashing the black flame into smithereens. However, this black flame was like a wildfire. After smashing apart the black flame in front of it, there were more layers of black flame appearing behind it. In the deepest part of the black flame, there was a 3-meter-long writing brush floating in the air. The black flame was coming from this writing brush. Boom! 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 As the writing brush drew across the void, the surrounding black flame transformed into various exotic beasts. They rushed towards Zhuowen from all directions as if they wanted to tear Zhuowen into pieces. Black flame brush. Zhuowen's face turned ugly. He recognized the writing brush at a glance. It was Zhu Tianzong's young sky saint weapon, the black flame brush. Back then, Zhu Tianzong's outer-body incarnation had brought the black flame brush to the eastern land to capture Zhuowen. Boom! 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 Zhuowen punched out again and again, turning the surrounding exotic beasts into dust. Then, he retreated a few thousand steps and escaped the black flame brush's attack range. Xiu, who was flying backward, was intercepted by Yuan Jibai and brought back to her side. Sect leader Zhu, what is the meaning of this? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and asked coldly. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on Zhu Tianzong. The black flame brush was Zhu Tianzong's saint weapon. This was known to all. Therefore, when Zhu Tianzong helped Xiu block Miefen, many people were suspicious. Haha! Little brother Miefen is indeed powerful. I admire you for being able to defeat the young palace master of Snow Palace. As for Xiu, since he has already lost to you, there is no need to kill him. Don't you think so? Zhu Tianzong said with a smile. Sect leader Zhu is right. However, since I have defeated Xiu, doesn't that mean that the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar has a new owner? For a piece of trash like Xiu, even if he consumed the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar, it would be a waste. Zhuowen calmed down completely and looked straight at Zhu Tianzong. Chapter 1563. Siege. Although Zhuowen's voice wasn't loud, the surrounding cultivators heard it clearly. Although Miefen said that Xiu was trash, the crowd didn't really think that Xiu was trash. They could only say that Miefen was too abnormal. Zhu Tianzong slowly narrowed his eyes, then smiled and said, little brother Miefen, what do you mean? Before the battle, you didn't say that whoever won would get the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar. Instead, it depended on whether you had the ability to snatch it. Although you won, you didn't get the burning flame nectar. So you have no reason to ask Xiao Ziyi to give it to you, right? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding cultivators fell silent. There was no doubt that Zhu Tianzong's words were protecting Xiao Ziyi. Zhuowen's face turned cold and said, Sect Master Zhu, are you slapping your own face? If you didn't suddenly stop me, do you think I wouldn't have been able to snatch the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar? Now you're saying this to me. Don't you feel ashamed? Zhu Tianzong's face turned ugly and said, I say, little brother Miefen, you better watch your words. This is my Burning Heaven sect's territory. Even if you're a real dragon with a powerful background, you still have to behave yourself. You really don't have any respect for your elders. Zhuowen sneered. His right foot suddenly stomped on the void, and he instantly shot out towards Yuan Jibai. You're courting death. Zhu Tianzong's face changed slightly, revealing a look of anger. He didn't expect Miefen to not give him any face. He had clearly stopped him, but this kid still didn't stop. He was simply courting death. Boom. In the void, the dark flame brush swept out stroke by stroke, interweaving extremely dazzling black flames. The black flames were like a fire dragon that surrounded Zhuowen, wanting to devour him completely. Zhuowen snorted and pulled out the fiery red belt from his waist with his right hand. Then, the fiery red belt formed a layer of red magma defense. The black flames bombarded the surface of the red magma defense, but were unable to penetrate it at all. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was like a hot knife through butter as he rushed towards Yuan Jibai. What? Zhu Tianzong was shocked. He didn't expect the dark flame brush to be blocked. His gaze fell on Zhuowen's lava belt as his expression flickered. For some reason, Miefen's belt gave him a sense of dread. It was a strange feeling. It was subtle, but the presence of the belt was hidden. Zhu Tianzong could not tell what level the belt was. Miefen, you're too presumptuous. Since you're so rude, don't blame me for being unjust. Zhu Tianzong's words were filled with righteousness. He sneered and rushed towards Zhuowen. The black flame brush in his hand continued to draw many portraits, using the black flame as a medium to materialize them. Boom. However, just as Zhu Tianzong was about to reach Zhuowen's side, an enormous mountain appeared in front of Zhu Tianzong and blocked his path. Damn it, get out of my way. Zhu Tianzong threw out a punch. The black flames surged and hit the surface of the giant mountain. However, the giant mountain did not move. Instead, it was Zhu Tianzong who retreated a dozen steps, looking surprised. Lo stood at the top of the 18th mountain, holding Prince Raven in his left hand and Jiang Liqing in his right. He looked down at Zhu Tianzong and said, You'd better give up on the idea of stopping my young master. Not far away, Yin Wu Shui and King Jiangxian, who were confronting Lo's, looked at each other with murderous intent. Miefen doesn't know what's good for him. He dares to provoke the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. This is our chance to capture Miefen. I don't believe that the bald man won't release Yin Yang and Jiang Liqing, Yin Wu Shui said to King Jiangxian. King Jiangxian said in a deep voice, Now is the time. Let's do it. After saying that, King Jiangxian took a step forward and rushed toward Zhuowen. Yin Wu Shui laughed and followed closely behind King Jiangxian. Yin Wu Shui and King Jiangxian have made their move. Miefen is in trouble. Miefen is too arrogant. Bathing Ziyi is the young palace master of the Snow Palace and the main character of the marriage between the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. Yet, he provoked Bathing Ziyi. It's not worth it. When Yin Wu Shui and King Jiangxian made their move, many warriors shook their heads and sighed. They felt that Miefen was doomed. Master, we have to help Miefen. He helped the 9 saints' heavenly sect a lot in the burning heavens and boiling seas. Xia Bingyu's beautiful eyes were full of worry as she pleaded with Tianyu Saint. Tianyu Saint's eyes flickered. In the end, he shook his head and sighed, Bingyu, the 9 saints' heavenly sect doesn't want to get involved in this mess. Of course, we don't have the qualifications to do so. You know the situation of the 9 saints' heavenly sect. Although we have a deep foundation, we are still slightly inferior to the Dark Crow sect and the Jiangxian family. Moreover, Mie Fen is too audacious to provoke the Burning Heaven sect. We can't get involved in this mess. Xia Bingyu was anxious. She wanted to help Mie Fen, but she knew that her cultivation was too low. Moreover, Tianyu Saint didn't make a move. She could only watch helplessly as Yin Wu Shui and King Jiangxian caught up with Mie Fen. Little bastard, I'll let you be arrogant. Today, I'll capture you and make you suffer a fate worse than death. Yin Wu Shui and King Jiangxian rushed over. Yin Wu Shui laughed strangely. His sharp voice was like that of a strange owl. It was extremely terrifying. Zhuo Wen's eyes were indifferent. He coldly stared at Yin Wu Shui and Jiangxian Wang and said, I will give you two a chance. If you leave now, it is not too late. Otherwise, you will all die. The crowd was in an uproar. Mie Fen was too arrogant. He dared to say such unrestrained words in front of Yin Wu Shui and King Jiangxian, who were of the older generation. Yin Wu Shui was at the Yin Sky Saint layer and King Jiangxian was at the Yang Sky Saint layer. Even Zhu Tianzong wouldn't dare to be careless in front of them. However, Mie Fen dared to say that if they didn't leave, they would both die. Little bastard, there's a limit to your arrogance. You're in danger and you still dare to be so presumptuous. You don't know how to write the word death. Jiangxian Wang couldn't help but curse. This Mie Fen was too arrogant and infuriating. Both of them were overlords of their respective territories, but this junior in front of them didn't even put them in his eyes. How could they tolerate this? Die. After saying that, King Jiangxian took out a long sword that was a saint artifact of the Yin sky. The surface of the sword was covered with golden words. The words were elegant and clean, as if they were written by an ancient sage. The virtuous paragon sword is the most precious treasure of the Jiangxian clan. Even though it's a Yin Sky Saint tool, the virtuous paragon sword has been blessed with many saint techniques by the previous masters of the Jiangxian clan. It's already in a transformation stage. It's said that it's not far from becoming a Yang Sky Saint tool. It's far superior to ordinary Yin Sky Saint tools. When King Jiangxian took out the sword, many people's expressions changed. They recognized the origin of King Jiangxian's saint tool. That's the Yin bone scepter. What a thick smell of blood. How many creatures must it have devoured to create such a terrifying smell? It's almost suffocating to the nose. After King Jiangxian took out the virtuous paragon sword, Yin Wu Shui also took out a Yin Sky Saint tool, the Yin bone scepter. The Yin bone scepter was made of bones. However, these bones were not white, but incomparably black. It seemed that the owner of these bones had been poisoned. At the top of the scepter was a palm-sized skull. The skull's hollow eyes were spurting out a thick blood qi. Without a doubt, the Yin bone scepter that Yin Wu Shui took out was not much weaker than King Jiangxian's virtuous paragon sword. Yin Wu Shui, you're still the same as before. You don't walk the right path in order to improve quickly. King Jiangxian's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. This was the first time he saw Yin Wu Shui take out the Yin bone scepter. However, he had heard rumors about the Yin bone scepter. It was said that the Yin bone scepter was originally a profound saint tool. However, by continuously absorbing the blood essence of creatures, it could continuously evolve. Of course, the more terrifying the creature's cultivation was, the more perfect the Yin bone scepter could evolve. To be able to evolve a profound saint tool into a Yin Sky Saint tool, Yin Wu Shui must have let the Yin bone scepter absorb the blood essence of countless creatures. It was not an exaggeration to describe it as a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Hee. As long as I can quickly increase my strength, what's wrong with using unscrupulous means? King Jiangxian, I'm not a hypocrite like you. If I want to do something, I won't choose not to do it because of other people's slanders. Yin Wu Shui said indifferently. Hearing Yin Wu Shui's sarcastic words, King Jiangxian slightly frowned and said indifferently, no need to talk nonsense. Quickly take down this little bastard to avoid any more trouble. That's natural, Yin Wu Shui laughed cruelly. Soon after, the yin bone scepter in his right hand pointed at the void. Endless wailing sounds came from the scepter as if it contained hell. Boom! Blood chi gushed out, forming a huge blood-red skull. The blood-red skull opened its mouth and covered Zhuo Wen. King Jiangxian was not careless. He quickly formed a sword technique with his right hand and pointed at the void. The virtuous paragon sword soared into the sky. The golden words on its surface lit up and a virtuous paragon phantom appeared. This virtuous paragon phantom held the virtuous paragon sword and faced Zhuowen from below. It wanted to cut Zhuowen in half. With the bloody skull above and the virtuous paragon sword below, Zhuowen was trapped in an airtight encirclement for a moment. Many warriors in the surroundings were trembling in the face of these two attacks. These two attacks were too terrifying. They felt their bodies go soft and did not have any thoughts of resisting. Little guy, I'm counting on you. Annihilate these two attacks. Zhuo Wen stood in the air, smiling faintly at the belt around his waist. Boom. Chapter 1564. Powerful. The soul-devouring magma river was a terrifying saint artifact on the level of a heaven-defying saint artifact. Even though Zhuo Wen was unable to unleash the full power of a heaven-defying saint artifact, it was not something saint artifacts on the level of yin sky saint artifacts and yang sky saint artifacts could compare to. The huge magma river ran through the entire sky. In an instant, the bloody skull and the virtuous paragon sword were swatted away by this terrifying magma river. What? Jiangxian King and Yin Wuxue were shocked. Whether it was the yin bone scepter or the virtuous paragon sword, they were both top-grade yin sky saint artifacts. Even a yang sky saint artifact couldn't send them flying so easily. However, the magma river that inexplicably rushed out of Miafen's body was so terrifying that the yin bone scepter and the virtuous paragon sword were sent flying so easily. Heaven-defying saint artifact. Zhu Tianzong, Yuan Jibai, and Hu Dunshan suddenly stood up. As three of the overlords of the four regions, they had naturally seen heaven-defying saint artifacts. Of course, they had only seen them. Their own sects didn't have such a terrifying saint artifact. Even the purple flame heavenly blade that Zhu Tianzong's main body had brought to the eastern lands was only a sky saint artifact. It was still one grade lower than a heaven-defying saint artifact. Zhu Tianzong and the other two's voices weren't low. Naturally, many warriors around the burning sky square heard the three's words. Especially when the words heaven-defying saint artifact entered their ears, everyone was shocked. Not good, let's go. Jiangxian King and Yin Wushue's faces turned pale in an instant. With a scream, they retrieved the yin bone scepter and the virtuous paragon sword and quickly fled into the distance. Heaven-defying saint artifact. This thing was 3 grades higher than the yin bone scepter and the virtuous paragon sword in their hands. Even if Miafen was only a profound sage and couldn't display the full power of a heaven-defying saint artifact, it was enough to crush their yin sky saint artifacts. Therefore, after the two learned that the magma river was a heaven-defying saint artifact, they didn't even care about their own status and immediately fled. Flee now. Is it too late? Zhuo Wen had a sneer on his face. He made a hand seal with his right hand, and the river of magma that stretched across the horizon rushed forward, blocking the path of Jiangxian Wang and Yin Wuxue. On the other hand, Zhuo Wen stepped on the magma flowing against the current and slowly walked over. His eyes were cold and emotionless as he stared at the two of them. His gaze was filled with brutality. They didn't know why, but when Yin Wuxue and King Jiangxian saw the tyrannical look in Zhuo Wen's eyes, their hearts began to throb. Experts who had reached their level of cultivation were basically able to remain calm and unaffected by external matters. However, at this moment, Zhuo Wen's gaze caused them to palpitate. It was truly inconceivable. I really didn't expect you to have a heaven-defying sacred artifact. You're just a mere profound sage. Do you think that you can defeat us just because you have a heaven-defying sacred artifact? You are really too naive, Yin Wuxue said in a weak voice. As for King Jiangxian, his brows furrowed, revealing a heavy expression. It's you who are naive. Whether I can defeat you or not, we'll know once we try. Why are you being so noisy here? Zhuo Wen lightly spat out these words. Then, he pressed down with his right hand, and the spirit-devouring magma river formed a terrifying vortex that swept King Jiangxian Wang and Yin Wuxue into it. Miafen, you dare? King Jiangxian Wang and Yin Wuxue both shouted at the same time. However, the magma vortex was too fast, and it instantly enveloped the two of them, causing their figures to completely disappear. Boom. The magma river suddenly contracted, and with a thunderous sound and mournful screams, the magma river suddenly shrank to the extreme and then exploded. Countless magma splashed out and overflowed in the air, causing a strange burning smell to spread. The figures of Yin Wuxue and King Jiangxian Wang never appeared again. Zhuowen withdrew his sleeve, and 2 rays of light flew into his hand. These 2 rays of light converged, revealing their true appearance. They were King Jiangxian Wang's virtuous sage sword and Yin Wuxue's yin bone scepter. However, the brilliance on the surface of these 2 saint tools was somewhat dim. Obviously, they had suffered a lot of damage during the explosion of the magma river. These 2 saint tools should be able to be used after a little repair. Putting away the 2 saint tools, Zhuowen whispered, and the corners of his mouth curved up. Hiss. After a long period of silence, the sound of people sucking in cold air finally broke this anxious and uneasy silence. Everyone was dumbfounded. They stared at the magma rain that filled the sky and fell into a strange silence. King Jiangxian Wang and Yin Wuxue are both dead, and not even their bones are left. Finally, someone murmured in a low voice, narrating the inconceivable yet clear reality before their eyes. Family head. Sect head. On the 18th mountain, Prince Raven and Jiang Licheng, who were held in the hands of Lows, trembled and shouted, as if they still couldn't believe what had happened in front of them. People from the Dark Crow sect and the Jiangxian family, do you still want to stop me? Zhuowen stepped on the lava river and looked down at the Jiangxian family and the other high-level officials of the Dark Crow sect, who were standing in front of him in a daze. He said word by word. However, the response to Zhuowen was a long silence. King Jiangxian Wang and Yin Wuxue were dead. How could they dare to provoke Miafen? Wasn't it just courting death? Miafen, can you let my young master go? Our family head has been killed. With Miafen's background, you don't need to put my Jiangxian family in your eyes. This old man begs Miafen to let my young master go. Suddenly, Elder Jian walked out from the Jiangxian family's seat, trembling. He knelt down on the ground and said sincerely, Jiang Licheng has provoked me many times. I have already forgiven him by not killing him. You still want me to let him go? Do you think it's possible? Zhuowen said, no longer paying attention to Elder Jian. He suddenly landed on the sky above the burning sky hall. Elder Jian sighed, slowly stood up and returned to his seat. He didn't dare to speak anymore. He knew that Miafen didn't plan to let Jiang Licheng go. However, Miafen didn't kill Jiang Licheng. To the Jiangxian family, it was a blessing in disguise. Sect Master Zhu, Palace Master Yuan, I, Miafen, am not a troublemaker. As long as you hand over the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar in the hands of that trash, I, Miafen, will not cause any more trouble. Zhuowen's body was surrounded by magma. He looked like a god and a demon. His voice was so loud that it made everyone's eardrums hurt. At this moment, Zhu Tianzong held the dark flame brush and slowly landed near Yuan Jibai. Lows also landed beside Zhuowen with the 18th mountain. Facing Zhuowen's fearless questioning, Zhu Tianzong and Yuan Jibai's faces turned ugly. At the same time, they were shocked in their hearts. They didn't expect that Miafen would have a heaven-defying saint artifact. It was beyond their expectations. Generally speaking, only the forces of the central region would have such a saint artifact. However, Miafen had one. Without a doubt, this mysterious Miafen probably came from one of the bigger forces in the central region. This was the most reasonable explanation. Because of this speculation, Zhu Tianzong and Yuan Jibai suddenly became afraid of taking action. In the central region, there were many powerful forces. Especially the Primal Chaos Temple, the 4 great battlefields and the 9 great sacred talisman clans. They were existences that surpassed all the other forces in the central region. Even those forces that weren't as strong as the 9 great sacred talisman clans, the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace combined would barely be able to catch up. Forces like the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace could indeed dominate one of the 4 great domains. However, in the central region, which was full of powerful forces, they were probably below average. Therefore, after guessing that Mie Fen was a disciple of a force in the central region, Zhu Tianzong and Yuan Jibai didn't dare to act recklessly. However, they didn't want to compromise either. After all, this was the territory of the Burning Heaven sect. If they compromised with a junior, the Burning Heaven sect would lose all its face. Xiu Ziyi also noticed the hesitation on Zhu Tianzong and Yuan Jibai's faces. He quickly said, "Palace Master and sect leader Zhu, don't be fooled by this little bastard. This guy is deliberately causing trouble. How can we hand over the 5,000 years of burning flame nectar just like that?" Xiu Ziyi was filled with hatred. The 5,000 years of burning flame nectar was the key to helping him break through to the heavenly saint realm. How could he give it up just like that? If he missed this opportunity, he didn't know how long it would take for him to break through to the heavenly saint realm on his own. "My little friend Mie Fen, how about this? We'll give this 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar to nephew Xianze first. After this marriage, my Burning Heaven sect will definitely treat little friend Mie Fen as an honored guest. At that time, we'll give you something that's not inferior to this 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar." Zhu Tianzong's tone was much more courteous than before, as he had his suspicions and was hesitant to act rashly. "The Snow Palace will also open the door for you, my little friend Mie Fen, as long as you can help us with this small favor." Yuan Jibai cupped her hands and said. Xiu Ziyi felt extremely aggrieved when he saw this. It was Mie Fen who was overbearing and had beaten him to such a state. Now, Yuan Jibai and Zhu Tianzong were treating him as a distinguished guest. Xiu Ziyi felt extremely unbalanced. Of course, even if he felt unbalanced, there was nothing he could do. He knew that Yuan Jibai and Zhu Tianzong had guessed that Mie Fen might be from a powerful force. That was why they were so cautious. "My little friend Mie Fen is really amazing. He actually made the palace master of the Snow Palace and the sect leader of the Burning Heaven sect treat him so courteously." In the seats of the 9 saints' heavenly sect, the Tianyu sage was in disbelief. After all, Mie Fen didn't care about the reputation of the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. He even taught Xiu Ziyi a lesson. It could be said that he was extremely presumptuous and arrogant. In the end, he was treated so courteously. The surrounding people were also shocked. Their eyes fell on Mie Fen. They knew that since Zhu Tianzong and Yuan Jibai had put down their pride, Mie Fen should stop. Although it felt like an empty promise, at least they gave Mie Fen a way out. "The Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace are nothing. Do I need to be your distinguished guest? I don't need these. I want the 5,000 years of burning flame nectar now." Chapter 1565. Disguise. Zhu Tianzong and Yuan Jibai's faces stiffened. They raised their heads and stared at Zhuowen. They didn't expect Mie Fen to be so ungrateful even though they had already given him a way out. "Little friend Mie Fen, I think you're deliberately causing trouble, right? Do you really think that my Burning Heaven sect is afraid of you?" Zhu Tianzong's eyes gradually turned cold as he said gloomily. "I really thought that your Burning Heaven sect is afraid of me. Today, I, Mie Fen, will take the 5,000 years burning flame nectar. Isn't it a waste to give it to a trash? Giving it to me is the best way to get it," Zhuowen said indifferently. As soon as these words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Mie Fen was too arrogant, but at the same time, there were many people who looked at him with ridicule. They wanted to see what Mie Fen would do next. Mie Fen's strength was not bad, and he also had a heaven-defying saint artifact. Coupled with the bald man, his battle strength was actually very terrifying. However, if he forced the Burning Heaven sect and Snow Palace into a corner, Mie Fen wouldn't be able to gain the slightest advantage. In the eyes of the crowd, Mie Fen's action was very foolish. As for Baishi, who was still recuperating, he was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Mie Fen was too hateful, calling him trash every time he opened his mouth. For someone as proud and arrogant as him, it was really unbearable. As for Mu Chunshue, she was standing among the Burning Heaven sect's team. Her pair of beautiful eyes silently sized up all of this, but she didn't do anything. She just looked on coldly from the side. Good, good, good. You've really gone too far. 18 Black Flame Envoys form the Great Black Flame Array. Today, no matter how amazing your background is, my Burning Heaven sect will let you taste the power of my Burning Heaven sect. Zhu Tianzong clapped his hands and laughed in anger. The 18 Black Flame Envoys, who had been standing respectfully behind him, responded and flew up into the sky, leaving 18 long black flame tails in the sky. In an instant, the black flames soared into the sky and turned into a huge black phoenix. The aura that leaked out from its body was like a flood, constantly surging and surging, causing many of the warriors present to tremble and their legs to tremble. The Black Phoenix was a terrifying offensive formation formed by 18 saints. Once this formation was used, even ordinary heavenly saints would have to retreat. It was extremely famous in the southern barbarian lands. Therefore, when the Black Phoenix spread its wings and soared into the sky, many of the leaders in the seats were shocked, and their breathing quickened. The Black Phoenix formation formed by the 18 Black Flame Envoys was famous in the southern barbarian. It had once conquered the entire southern barbarian for the Burning Heaven sect, subduing one force after another. Therefore, when the masters of those forces saw this Black Phoenix, they subconsciously felt fear. Sect Master, there's no need to set up the Black Flame formation for such a small matter, right? A voice as pleasant as an oriole's came. Mu Chunshue, who had been silently watching, slowly walked over. Looking at the Black Phoenix in the sky, she frowned and said, Chen Shui, don't worry about this matter. This Mie Fen has gone too far. If we don't teach him a lesson today, how can we spread the name of your Burning Heaven sect? Yuzha said with a gloomy face. He didn't expect Mu Chunshue to stand up. She was his fiancée, and now she stood up for another man. It was easy to imagine how bad Yuzha's mood was. Ha, ha, do you really think I only have these people in my hands? Zhuowen laughed. Zhu Tianzong's eyes narrowed and his heart trembled. Could it be that Mie Fen didn't only bring a bald man? Just the strength of the bald man alone couldn't be underestimated. Perhaps the other people brought by Mie Fen wouldn't be too bad. Senior Liu Sai, Senior Mies, you should come out as well. Let the Burning Heaven sect see if we have the qualifications to challenge them. Zhuowen's indifferent voice slowly came out. Following that, 2 terrifying sonic booms came from the sky. Hong Long. Hong Long. 2 sacred mountains that connected the heavens and the earth suddenly fell into the ruins of the Burning Heaven Plaza, standing side by side with the 18th mountain. At the top of the 2 mountains, there were 2 tall figures silently standing there. Of the 2 figures, one was a middle-aged man with long hair and 3 red lines on his forehead. The other was a young man with a cold face and cold eyes, carrying a wide stone sword on his back. These 2 people were none other than the 16th mountain god Mies and the 17th mountain god Liu Sai. After summoning Long Xiaotian and the other 3, Zhuowen also secretly summoned these 2 people. Before his identity was exposed, Zhuowen knew that he could rely on the power of the 3 mountain gods to completely intimidate the forces present, including the Burning Heaven sect. After all, the identity of Mie Fen that Zhuowen disguised as was mysterious and his origin was unknown. Coupled with his young age, terrifying strength, and numerous trump cards, it was easy for people to associate him with a disciple of a major force in the Middle Earth. Zhuowen was taking advantage of people's guesses, so he acted as arrogant as possible and even looked down on the Burning Heaven sect. After all, the Burning Heaven sect's influence in the Middle Earth was only below average. If the Mie Fen that Zhuowen disguised as was really from the Middle Earth, then he must have high standards but low abilities. Naturally, he wouldn't think highly of the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. If he really compromised with the Burning Heaven sect, then Zhu Tianzong would probably be suspicious. Therefore, at this moment, Zhuowen had to act. Moreover, he had to act decently and act extremely pretentious. This Dragon Lord gives you full marks for acting pretentious. In his sea of consciousness, Xiao Hei gave him a thumbs up and couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. In an instant, the three sacred mountains spanned across the burning heaven plaza, almost connecting the heavens and the earth, shocking everyone. Even Zhu Tianzong felt a trace of reverence. Lo's was already difficult enough to deal with, but this Mier Fen actually had two more. What kind of major force would send three such experts to protect him? Moreover, this indirectly showed that Mier Fen's identity wasn't ordinary. At this moment, Zhu Tianzong thought about many things. In the end, he waved his hand and dismissed the Black Phoenix. Then, he cupped his hands towards Zhuowen and smiled. I wonder if little friend Mier Fen is from the Middle-earth? Zhuowen raised his head slightly and said pretentiously, since Sect Master has already guessed it, why are you still asking such a question? Hearing this, Zhu Tianzong's heart trembled. On the other hand, Hu Benshan and Yuan Jibai looked at each other. They wouldn't act rashly. Although the three major forces combined weren't afraid of Mier Fen and the other three, they were wary of the huge force behind Mier Fen. If Mier Fen was really a disciple of a major force in the Middle-earth, they would be in deep trouble if they really offended such a person. Little friend Mier Fen, you should at least tell us about your background. That way, we will be convinced, right? Zhu Tianzong asked cautiously. Zhuowen waved his sleeve and took out a token in his hand. He showed it to Zhu Tianzong and said, look at this. You should know my background. The token was simple and unadorned. However, it faintly emitted a light that made one's heart palpitate. The front of the token was engraved with the word chaos, while the back was engraved with the word chaos. Chaos Temple? Zhu Tianzong was so shocked that his jaw almost fell off. Even Yuan Jibai and Hu Benshan's jaws dropped. They didn't know what to say. Hu Benshan was even more relieved. Originally, he was still brooding about being defeated by Mier Fen. However, he was relieved now. It was reasonable for a genius from the Chaos Temple to defeat him. The leaders of many forces were in an uproar. Clearly, they didn't expect a disciple of the Chaos Temple to come to the southern wilderness. This was something that no one had expected. So little friend Mier Fen is from the Chaos Temple. Forgive me for my poor eyesight. I didn't see through your background. I hope you don't blame me. Zhu Tianzong smiled warmly. The Chaos Temple is famous even in the 4 major regions. Everyone knows about it. Hu Benshan and Yuan Jibai also clasped their hands together. Their eyes were full of enthusiasm. They naturally didn't dare to slight a disciple of the Chaos Temple. He's actually a disciple of the Chaos Temple. How is this possible? Hu Benshan muttered to himself with a pale face. Zhuowen naturally kept the token. This token was found in the fragments of Cao Rong's body. Back then, the heavenly insects had torn apart and devoured Cao Rong's corpse, destroying all the spirit rings on his body. However, the medallion that represented his identity was still intact. Later on, it was found by the Long family and handed to Zhuowen. Before entering the southern wilderness, Zhuowen had already thought of this plan. He knew that the identity of a disciple of the Chaos Temple was extremely useful in the 4 major regions. Haha. Sect leader Zhu, you don't have to give the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar to that trash. Give it to me, Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Zhu Tianzong's eyes flickered. He finally came to Hu Benshan's side. Yuan Jibai didn't stop Zhu Tianzong. Nephew Mu, I'll have to trouble you this time. Hand over the 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar. I'll compensate you after this. Zhu Tianzong said helplessly. Hu Benshan's face turned pale. Especially when he felt the mocking gazes of the people around him. He felt extremely humiliated, but there was nothing he could do. Forcing a smile, Hu Benshan took out the phoenix crystal and handed it to Zhu Tianzong. He said, Sect leader, take it. Zhu Tianzong took the phoenix crystal and carefully handed it to Zhuowen. He smiled and said, Mier Fen, this 5,000-year-old burning flame nectar is yours. You can take it. Zhuowen took the phoenix crystal without hesitation. His gaze fell on Hu Benshan again. He said, the young palace master of the Snow Palace was very arrogant before. Why don't I fight with him again? Let's see who's more arrogant and domineering. As soon as he said this, Hu Benshan's face stiffened. His eyes darkened. The faces of the people of the Snow Palace, led by Yuan Jibai, also darkened. Ha. Mie Fen, you think too much. How can Hu Benshan be your opponent? Yuan Jibai said with a smile. If that's the case, then let him kneel down and apologize. The people of the Chaos Temple are not people that anyone can offend. Hu Benshan is just a junior. How dare he be disrespectful to me? He's too bold. Chapter 1566. Take you away. Yuan Jibai's pretty face stiffened. Standing behind Yuan Jibai, Shouju's eyes widened as he stared at Zhuowen. Mie Fen was too much. He actually wanted him to kneel and apologize. This was too much. Mie Fen, so what if you're a disciple of the Primal Chaos Temple? I, Shouju, have already handed over 5,000 years of burning flame nectar. Why are you still so aggressive? Shouju was so angry that he trembled. Yuan Jibai's pretty face turned ugly as she said, "Little friend Mie Fen, you're pushing your luck. Shouju has already handed over the burning flame nectar. Why are you still forcing him?" Zhuowen sneered, "The Primal Chaos Temple cannot be blasphemed. Shouju has looked down on me many times. This is disrespect to me and the Primal Chaos Temple behind me. I didn't break his legs and only asked him to kneel and apologize. This is already the greatest tolerance. Of course, if Shouju doesn't want to submit, I don't mind using force." As he spoke, Zhuowen clenched his right hand. The soul-devouring magma river soared into the sky and covered the sky, turning into an endless river of magma. Loz, Liu Sai, and Miez approached step by step with the three sacred mountains. Killing intent instantly filled the surroundings. Just the aura emitted by Loz and the other two was enough to make many people tremble in fear. Perhaps, even if all the forces present were to join forces, they might not be a match for Liao Sai and the other two. The only ones that could contend against them were the overlord forces of the four great regions, the Burning Sky Sect, the Snow Ice Palace and the Ferocious Tiger Sect. Shouju, why don't you kneel and apologize? After all, things have escalated to this point. It doesn't benefit anyone. Do you want everyone to be dragged down because of you? Tiger Break couldn't help but ask Shouju when he saw the killing intent surging in Mie Fen's eyes. Tiger Break is right. Nephew Mu only needs to apologize and everything will be resolved. Why not? Tiger Collapsing Mountain said slowly. Zhu Tianzong's eyes flickered. He looked at Yuan Jibai and said softly, "Jibai, in order for this marriage to continue, I don't think we need to make a big deal out of this, right?" Yuan Jibai's pretty face froze. She then said in a deep voice, "I understand." After that, Yuan Jibai turned to look at Yu Ziyi and said, "Yu Ziyi, for the sake of the big picture, I can only wrong you for now." Bowser took a step back, his face pale. He knew that Yuan Jibai and Zhu Tianzong had compromised again. Taking a deep breath, Shenze forcefully endured the humiliation in his heart. With a plop, he directly knelt on the ground and faced the high and mighty Zhuowen. He said, "Mie Fen, I, Shenze, have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai previously. I hope you can forgive my unintentional mistake." Whoosh! The moment Yu Ziyi knelt down to apologize, an uproar broke out in the crowd. No one expected that Yu Ziyi would really kneel down and apologize. Zhuowen glanced at Yu Ziyi indifferently, then his gaze fell on Mu Chunxue. He smiled and said, "Saintess, look at Yu Zi's cowardly appearance. How can he be worthy of you? I think you should just cancel this marriage. Letting such a trash be worthy of you is simply an insult to you." Creak. Xiu Ziyi tightly clenched his fists. He felt extremely humiliated in his heart when faced with Zhuowen's mocking words. To insult him like this in front of his fiancée, where was his face? However, he did not dare to refute. "Hihi, Mie Fen, you don't have to worry about this matter. After all, the marriage between our Burning Heavens sect and Snow Palace has already been set." Zhu Tianzong smiled. Zhuowen put on a fake smile and said, "That's right. Since it's the Holy Maiden's big day today, as a guest, I naturally have to take out something as a gift for your wedding." As he spoke, Zhuowen slowly took out a 7-colored lotus flower from his spirit ring. In the middle of the lotus flower, a 7-colored pill quietly floated. If one looked carefully, the core of the 7-colored lotus flower was the 7-colored pill. As for the 7-colored lotus flower, it was just a manifestation of the 7-colored pill's majestic medicinal energy. 7 spirits celestial pill? This can't be the 7 spirits celestial pill, right? Zhu Tianzong could not help but exclaim when he recognized the 7 spirit celestial pill in Zhuowen's palm. Could it be the rumored 7 spirit celestial pill that can allow one to be reborn and reach the level of creation? This celestial pill is rare in the world. It is said that after consuming this 7 spirit celestial pill, one can undergo 7 transformations and obtain a great creation. Hu Benshan and Yuan Jibai were both moved, their eyes blazing. This celestial pill was so great that even overlords like them felt a rush of excitement. Zhu Tianzong was even more ecstatic. Even the Burning Heavens sect might not be able to take out such a celestial pill. Miefen's intention to give it to Mu Chunxue made Zhu Tianzong even more convinced of Miefen's identity as a disciple of the Chaos Temple. As he spoke, Zhuowen slowly walked towards Mu Chunxue, holding the 7-colored lotus flower in his right hand. It was like a dream and the scene was extremely beautiful. Zhu Tianzong and the people of the Burning Heaven sect did not stop Zhuowen from moving forward. After all, how could they stop someone from giving something so valuable? This guy really came to the Burning Heaven city for the saintess. All men are the same. In the seats of the 9 saints' heavenly gate, Xia Bingyu looked at this scene and muttered to herself with slight jealousy. Junior sister, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to this Miefen? Han Yu suddenly said to Xia Bingyu with a smile. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't like men. I like women. Xia Bingyu was like a mouse that had its tail stepped on as she retorted to Han Yu rather agitatedly. Han Yu laughed and immediately said solemnly, we are not from the same world as him. If he really is a disciple of the Chaos Temple, he doesn't owe us anything. Instead, we owe him a big favor. Xia Bingyu was startled and fell silent. She sighed and nodded slightly. When Zhuowen finally arrived in front of Mu Chunxue, he slowly bent down and handed the 7-colored lotus flower to Mu Chunxue. He asked with a smile, Chen Shui, I specially prepared this 7-colored lotus flower for you. Do you like it? Mu Chunxue was startled. Her beautiful eyes first looked at the smiling young man in front of her. She could see the longing and pampering in the young man's eyes. She did not know why, but when she saw those eyes, she could not help but feel a trace of sadness in her heart. This 7-colored lotus flower is my gift to you as an apology. I'm really sorry that I couldn't bring you back last time. I know that you've done a lot for me, but I couldn't do anything for you. Because of my impulsive actions, I put you in a difficult situation. After saying this, Zhuowen slowly held Mu Chunxue's jade-like hand and gently placed the 7-colored lotus flower in her palm. Mu Chunxue subconsciously wanted to withdraw her hand, but when she saw those gentle eyes, she did not move her hand away. Zhu Tianzong and the others realized that something was wrong. Miefen's words were a bit strange. Based on his tone, could it be that he knew Mu Chunxue before? Hu Yanze was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Mu Chunxue was his fiancée. Now, his fiancée was actually holding a man's hand in front of him and accepting this man's gift. Hu Yanze was simply mad. Do you still remember the story of Wu Sangui and Chen Yuanyuan? Zhuowen gently asked. Mu Chunxue was puzzled. She shook her head and said, what story is that? It's a very good story. It's a story that you like very much. Do you want to hear it? Zhuowen said with a smile. Yes, I want to hear it. Mu Chunxue nodded as a smile bloomed on her face. Zhuowen slowly pulled Mu Chunxue into his arms. This sudden turn of events made Mu Chunxue feel at a loss. She did not expect that the young man in front of her would suddenly hug her. But for some reason, being hugged by this person felt extremely warm and comfortable. What a familiar feeling. It's as if I've leaned into someone's arms before and listened to that person tell me a story. Mu Chunxue muttered in a low voice. She slowly leaned her head against Zhuowen's firm chest. This embrace made her feel warm and at ease. If she could, she wanted to stay like this forever. Wu Sangui, the commander of the Shanhai Pass, was furious just because Chen Yuanyuan was taken by Liu Zhongmin. He refused to surrender to Li Zicheng and led the Qing army into the pass. Zhuowen slowly began to narrate the story of Wu Sangui and Chen Yuanyuan. His expression was focused and his eyes were like water. Hua! The moment Zhuowen and Mu Chunxue hugged each other, the Burning Heaven Plaza burst into an uproar. Everyone looked at this scene in disbelief. Many people were even confused. The holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect was as pure as ice and jade. She was as cold as ice and frost. Strangers could not get close to her. Even her fiancé, Yu Shiai's, did not have a good expression. But now, she was hugging Mie Fen so intimately. You bitch. Yu Shiai's could not take it anymore. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Little friend Mie Fen, what is the meaning of this? Why aren't you letting go of Chen Shui? Zhu Tianzong's face became very ugly. A killing intent exploded from his body and he could vaguely feel the strangeness of this Mie Fen. Who are you? Your story is very familiar, your eyes are very familiar, and your aura is very familiar. Just who are you? Why can't I remember you? At this moment, Mu Chen Shui suddenly raised her head. Her watery eyes were filled with sparkling and translucent tears, and 2 streaks of tears streamed down her delicate cheeks. When Zhuowen was narrating the story, Mu Chenshue's heart was completely moved. She could not control her tears from flowing down. She did not know why she was crying. Her heart was filled with panic that she had forgotten an important person. Who was that person? She did not want to forget. Zhuowen did not care about Zhu Tianzong. He leaned over and kissed Mu Chenshue's white forehead. His hands tightly hugged her and he gently said, I am Zhuowen, Chen Shui, perhaps you have forgotten me, but I will never forget you and I will never let you forget me. Chapter 1567. Start the battle. 1. Zhuowen's voice was very soft and gentle, but it was unusually firm. He did not hide his voice. Now, the woman he had been dreaming about day and night was right in front of him. He didn't want to hide anymore. He wanted to take her away openly. Whoosh. Although Zhuowen's voice was soft, the warriors present weren't ordinary people. Naturally, they heard Zhuowen's words clearly. Of course, since they were all from the southern barbarian forces, they were unfamiliar with Zhuowen's name. Their eyes were filled with doubt. Zhuowen? Isn't his name Mie Fen? Why is he calling himself Zhuowen now? The leaders of the forces present were puzzled and couldn't help but ask. Some warriors' eyes flickered as if they had other thoughts. Some warriors had heard some rumors and understood. Zhu Tianzong's body trembled. His eyes widened as he stared at Zhuowen's back. His face changed from red to green, then from green to purple. Finally, he roared, You're Zhuowen? Zhu Tianzong's rage also attracted the attention of others. Many people were puzzled as to why Zhu Tianzong was so angry. Hu Bengshan and Yuan Jibai looked at each other. Yuan Jibai frowned and said to Hu Bengshan, Could that Zhuowen be the Rika Zhuowen that Zhu Tianzong mentioned? Hu Bengshan and Yuan Jibai had heard a lot about Zhuowen from Zhu Tianzong. They knew that the Rika that destroyed the Blue Dragon Hall in the Eastern Lands had risen from Zhuowen's hands. Where did he get the Primal Chaos Temple's token? Hu Bengshan asked doubtfully. Yuan Jibai shook her head. She did not know, either. The sky insects had appeared in the east, and they did not know the details of that battle. So, they were very confused. Zhuowen was not a disciple of the Chaos Temple, but he had the Chaos Temple's identity medallion. However, Zhuowen knew that Cao Rong, a disciple of the Primal Chaos Temple, had been killed by Heavenly Insect in the Battle of the Eastern Lands. Most likely, Cao Rong's identity token had been obtained by Zhuowen. Moreover, Mie Fen's behavior was extremely unusual. Now that Mie Fen was hugging Mu Chunxue and taking the initiative to say his name, Zhu Tianzong knew that Mie Fen was not playing with him. This guy's real identity was Zhuowen. Extinguish, 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 extinguish. Do you want to extinguish my burning heaven sect? What a tyrannical name. Zhu Tianzong snorted and stepped out with his right foot. With the dark flame brush in his hand, he drew a long black line in the sky and dashed toward Zhuowen. Boom! A sacred mountain suddenly appeared in front of Zhu Tianzong. When the terrifying black flame hit the sacred mountain, it only made it tremble slightly. Then, it became as steady as Mount Tai. Zhu Tianzong retreated a few hundred steps. He stared coldly at Lowe's on the sacred mountain and said, "Get out of my way." With that, Zhu Tianzong no longer held back. He pointed the dark flame brush in the air and sketched out the images of strange birds and strange beasts. These strange birds and strange beasts rushed out as if they had materialized. Using the black flame as a medium, they all pounced on the giant sacred mountain. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Lowe's sneered and imprisoned Prince Raven and Jiang Licheng. Then, he threw them into the inner world of the 18th mountain. Then, Lowe's pointed the sword finger of his right hand at the surface of the 18th mountain. Suddenly, a brilliant light filled the air and the 18th mountain shrank into a long rod. Bang! 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 Liao Sai swung the long rod in his right hand. His body moved along with the rod. Immediately, rod shadows poured out from all over the sky. The countless number of strange birds and beasts that were formed from the black flame that were rushing over exploded one after another. Swoosh! After destroying the countless strange birds and strange beasts, Lowe's descended from the sky like a flood and arrived in front of Zhu Tianzong in an instant. With a swing of his rod, thousands of shadows appeared and shattered the sky and earth. It was extremely terrifying. Zhu Tianzong's face turned ugly. He had underestimated Lowe's strength. He didn't expect this guy to be so strong. His attack with the dark flame brush was destroyed so easily. 18 Black Flame Envoys, listen up. I order you to take down Zhuowen with the upper echelons of the sect. You are allowed to kill him. Zhu Tianzong shouted angrily. Listen up. In the sky, the huge black phoenix stretched its neck and let out a long cry. Then, it suddenly fell and landed not far from Zhuowen, splitting into 18 figures. They were the 18 Black Flame Envoys. The 18 Black Flame Envoys stood in 18 different directions, glaring at Zhuowen who was hugging Mu Chunxue. Behind the 18 Black Flame Envoys, powerful figures vaguely appeared. There were more than 100 of them. These figures had a vast aura, and their saint might was like a mountain. There was no doubt that the more than 100 figures that appeared were all half-step saints. Of course, there were also a few profound sage-level saints among them. What a terrifying lineup. The Burning Sky sect has hidden so deeply. They actually hid so many experts. Looking at the countless shadows, the masters of the various forces in the Burning Heaven Square were shocked. On the surface, the experts of the Burning Heaven sect were only Zhu Tianzong and the 18 Black Flame Envoys. Although it was rumored that the Burning Heaven sect had a lot of half-step saints, it didn't exceed 100. But now, the number of experts that appeared on the surface had exceeded 100. With so many experts, it was enough to destroy any force in the southern barbarian lands. Even Yuan Jibai and Hu Benshan had astonished expressions on their faces. Clearly, they were a little shocked by the true background of the Burning Sky sect. At this moment, Zhu Tianzong looked at Yuan Jibai and Hu Dunshan, and said in a deep voice, "Sister Jibai, Brother Dunshan, I told you that Zhuowen has an immortal sacred artifact. He was able to make Rika rise so quickly and destroy the Blue Dragon Hall in such a short time because of that immortal sacred artifact. Moreover, the Blue Dragon Hall was destroyed because of him. You won't just sit and watch, right?" Whoosh whoosh. Hu Dunshan and Yuan Jibai looked at each other and smiled. Sect leader Zhu is right. The Blue Dragon Hall is the overlord of the Eastern Land. As the overlords of the 4 territories, we should work together and help each other. Since this Zhuowen is the leader of Rika and is the culprit behind the destruction of the Blue Dragon Hall, the overlords of the 4 territories naturally have the obligation to work together and uphold justice for the Blue Dragon Hall. Hu Dunshan stomped his right foot, and a monstrous saint energy soared into the sky like a long bridge that covered the sky. The saint energy became more and more terrifying, and it transformed into the shadow of a huge white tiger. Hu Dunshan leaped up and brought many members of the ferocious tiger sect to the sky and rushed to Zhu Tianzong's side. Yuan Jibai summoned the snow chariot and carried the people of the snow palace. She followed closely behind Hu Dunshan and landed beside Zhu Tianzong. This time, Hu Dunshan and Yuan Jibai did not bring many people. Hu Dunshan brought 30 people, and Yuan Jibai brought more, a total of 50 people. Although there were not many people, each of them was an elite. The weakest among them was a demi-saint. After all, they were the overlords of the Western region and the Northern Territory respectively. However, the people that Hu Dunshan and Yuan Jibai brought together were still not comparable to the lineup that Zhu Tianzong had sent. This showed how powerful the Burning Heaven sect was. Haha, you want to bully me with numbers? I, Mies, will accompany you. A wild laughter was heard. Mies and Liu Sai rushed over with the 16th mountain and the 17th mountain respectively. They stood in front of Zhu Tianzong and his people in a wild and unrestrained manner. The Burning Heaven sect, the Ferocious Tiger sect, and the Snow Palace have joined forces. 3 overlords working together can probably crush everything. It's too terrifying. When the Burning Heaven sect, the Ferocious Tiger sect, and the Snow Palace displayed their respective forces, many forces in the surrounding seats were moved and revealed a look of fear. If the 3 overlord forces joined forces, they would be able to kill anyone in the 4 major regions. Such a combined force was enough to annihilate all the forces in the Burning Sky Plaza. Everyone knew that Shuo Wen was probably finished. Even if this kid had 3 assistants with terrifying strengths by his side, it was undoubtedly like an ant trying to shake a tree when facing 3 overlord powers, and he was overestimating his ability. On the other side, the 18 Black Flame envoys led the numerous experts of the Burning Heaven sect to surround Zhuowen and Mu Chunxue. The Black Phoenix was wrapped in black flames that covered the sky like a dark cloud. Let go of the Saintess and cripple your own cultivation. Perhaps you will still have a chance to live. The first Black Flame envoy's gaze was cold as he looked down at Zhuowen, who was hugging Mu Chunxue. His muffled thunderous voice resounded, rumbling in everyone's ears. The 18 Black Flame envoys have formed the Black Flame Array. This array is very dangerous. Even an ordinary Heavenly Saint expert might not be able to resist it. Quickly run. Mu Chunxue gently pushed Zhuowen away. Her expression returned to normal. Her beautiful eyes stared at the strange yet familiar youth in front of her with a complicated look. Finally, she sighed softly and said, "Then are you willing to go with me?" Zhuowen said with a smile. Hearing this, Mu Chunxue's beautiful eyes flickered. She whispered, "You do give me a familiar feeling. But did we really know each other before? What was our relationship before?" Hearing Mu Chunxue's slightly doubtful words, Zhuowen's heart ached. His facial muscles began to contract and change, returning to his original appearance. He stroked Mu Chunxue's hair and said softly, "Perhaps you don't know me now. But I can tell you that we were once the most intimate people. We were lovers. You are my lover. I said that I would take you away. I will do it now. The Burning Heaven sect can't stop me." Speaking till here, the entire Burning Sky Plaza started to violently tremble. Those seats that were floating above the plaza started to violently tremble under this terrifying tremor. Some of the seats even shattered, and the martial artists that were sitting on them fell down from their seats. Following which, the crowd in the seats were astonished to discover that a terrifyingly huge palace was slowly emerging in the void behind Zhuowen. On the surface of this palace, a huge dragon shadow appeared. The dragon shadow swallowed the heavens and the earth, shaking the earth. What a huge palace! What kind of palace is this? In the seats, many martial artists retreated as they stared at the azure dragon palace that had suddenly appeared. Swoosh! Swoosh! Chapter 1568. Begin. 2. Nation. Many figures gathered around Zhuowen like dark clouds, surrounding him like a tortoise shell. They seemed to be protecting Zhuowen. Long Tian pays his respects to Lord Long Wen. Long Tian took a step forward, kneeling on one knee in front of Zhuowen as he shouted respectfully, "Rustle, rustle, rustle." The moment Long Tian knelt on the ground, The many powerful figures behind him also knelt on the ground and shouted excitedly, "Greetings to Lord Long Wen." His voice was like a thunderclap that shot into the sky, and it was deafening as it reverberated endlessly. What a terrifying formation. This Zhuoan has so many experts behind him, and all of them have the surname Long. Could they be the Riker from the Eastern Lands? That can't be. Wasn't the Riker destroyed 10,000 years ago? How could they appear again? It's said that they've risen again, and haven't you heard of the great upheaval in the Eastern Lands? When the Riker experts rushed out of the Blue Dragon Hall, many cultivators were moved. At the same time, some of the more informed cultivators recalled the great upheaval in the Eastern Lands. Although they didn't know the exact situation of this great upheaval, they knew that the Azure Dragon Palace, the overlord of the Eastern Land, had undergone a great change in this great upheaval. It seemed that it had been replaced by a new force. When Zhuoan and the other Riker experts arrived, some of the people who had guessed the truth were enlightened. They knew that the rumors of the destruction of the Blue Dragon Hall weren't groundless, and should be true. This was because the strength of the experts sent out by the Riker was terrifying, and they weren't any weaker than the Burning Heaven sect. No wonder they could destroy the Blue Dragon Hall. However, now that the Burning Heaven sect had joined forces with the Ferocious Tiger sect and the Snow Palace, the Riker alone might not be able to contend against them. Dragon Soul cultivators, come out and set up the Blue Dragon formation. Tear off all the feathers of that black bird in the sky. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant. Zhuoan said to the people in the group, and immediately, dozens of figures walked out side by side and stood not far behind Long Tian. Release the Dragon Souls, formation. Long Tian shouted, and a dragon roar sounded from his body, and 1,000 feet long dragon soared into the sky. Awoo! Awoo! The moment Long Tian released his Dragon Soul, the dozens of Dragon Soul warriors also released their own Dragon Souls. These Dragon Souls soared into the sky and intertwined with each other. In the end, they transformed into a huge pale dragon that was hundreds of thousands of feet long. The Blue Dragon formation was inspired by the Sapphire Shore's Nine Saints Dragon formation by Zhuoan, and it was a powerful formation that he had deduced in the Blue Dragon Hall for the past 90 years. As for why so many Dragon Soul cultivators suddenly appeared in Riker, the main reason was that Zhuoan and Long Xiaotian had obtained the Dragon Souls from the Sapphire Shore hidden in the Blue Dragon Hall's secret cave, and had been infused into the bodies of the talented Riker's younger generation. It was because of this that so many Dragon Soul cultivators suddenly appeared in Riker, and the power of the Blue Dragon formation formed by so many Dragon Souls was unimaginable. Go! Kill that black mixed bird! As soon as the Blue Dragon appeared, it soared into the sky and headed straight for the Black Phoenix. The 18 black flame envoys hidden in the Black Phoenix were all enraged, and the veins on their foreheads bulged. The black flame formation that they had set up was the noble Black Phoenix, and now it was called a black bird. How could they tolerate it? Die! The 18 black flame envoys roared, and the Black Phoenix let out a long cry. Black flames burned the sky, and the eagle soared into the sky at lightning speed. Rumble. The black flames were like blades, and they instantly cut through the void and landed in front of the Blue Dragon. However, the Blue Dragon was also powerful, and a dragon claw slammed down with the weight of a mountain, and it tore the black flames apart. Boom! 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 In an instant, the Black Phoenix and the Blue Dragon collided. The Blue Dragon's claw swept across the sky, but the Black Phoenix was not afraid, and it flapped its wings. The two fought until the sky darkened, and the sun and moon dimmed. That kind of power made many martial artists secretly smack their lips. In order to avoid an unexpected disaster, many of them retreated and were unwilling to get close to the burning sky square. However, the Black Phoenix and the Blue Dragon were apprehensive, and they did not fight near the ground. Instead, they soared into the sky for thousands of miles. The cries of the dragon and the cries of the phoenix soared into the sky, penetrating the gold and splitting the stone. The magnificent scene of the dragon and the phoenix fighting shook the entire vast territory of the southern barbarian. Even in the southern barbarian's border region, there were martial artists who could vaguely hear the cries of the dragon and the phoenix that seemed to be able to penetrate everything. Attack! Slaughter all these Riker people, and everyone here. This is the Riker that destroyed the Blue Dragon Hall. That hall is the legendary immortal sacred artifact. If you can help the Burning Heavens sect to take down the immortal sacred artifact, everyone will have a share of the treasures inside. Zhu Tianzong's face was slightly gloomy, and he couldn't help but turn his head to look at the burning sky square. This time, there were 50 to 60 forces that participated in the marriage alliance between the Burning Heavens sect and the Snow Palace. If they really joined forces with the Burning Heavens sect, they would be a terrifying force. Immortal sacred artifact. This hall is actually an immortal sacred artifact. Hall-type sacred artifacts are generally immortal sacred artifacts. They don't have any offensive power, but I'm afraid they contain endless treasures. If we join forces with the Burning Heavens sect, we won't even get a share of the immortal sacred artifact if we miss this opportunity. In the seats, the leaders of the various forces revealed excitement and greed in their eyes. In their view, the Burning Heavens sect, the Fierce Tiger sect, and the Snow Palace, these three overlords, had joined forces. So what if the Riker was strong? Their final fate would be a crushing defeat. Perhaps some of the leaders of the various forces knew that Zhu Tianzong was using them as cannon fodder. The temptation of the immortal sacred artifact was very tempting. Even if they couldn't get the immortal sacred artifact in the end, they might have a chance to obtain the treasures inside. After all, many of the experts in the Riker had a lot of profound sacred artifacts in their hands. Even the Burning Heavens sect might not be able to take out so many profound sacred artifacts, but the Riker was equipped with so many of them. There was no doubt that these profound sacred artifacts were obtained from the Azure Dragon Hall. This made many cultivators restless. They knew that as long as they could seize the Azure Dragon Hall, they would seize a treasure trove. Moreover, this treasure trove was very likely to contain countless treasures. Even if they could only get a share of the loot, it would still be a great benefit for them. This was also the main reason why many forces were tempted even though they knew Zhu Tianzong's sinister intentions. Let's kill them. As long as we capture Zhuowen, we will obtain the Azure Dragon Hall. At that time, I, Zhu Tianzong, will guarantee that everyone will have a share of the treasures inside, Zhu Tianzong said patiently. What a despicable old man. You actually incited a group of people to be buried with the Burning Heavens sect. In any case, you're a major force in the southern barbarian lands. You're tempted by such an instigation? Then I can only say that you're as stupid as pigs. Zhuowen warned as he narrowed his eyes and stared coldly at the tempted forces of the southern barbarian lands. I think you're afraid. Everyone, let's go. It's an immortal sacred artifact. Even if it's a treasure inside an immortal sacred artifact, do you think we can obtain it if we don't have the opportunity? This is an opportunity in front of us. If we don't seize it, we'll regret it in the future. Suddenly, a black-robed old man on the Dark Crow sect's seat shouted. This old man should be an elder of the Dark Crow sect. However, as soon as the black-robed old man finished speaking, a big hand stretched out from the void behind him and pinched him. Poochie. The black-robed old man's eyes widened. He could not help but look behind him. He saw a figure slowly walking out from the shattered void behind him. This figure was none other than Zhuowen. You! How can you be so fast? How is this possible? The black-robed old man asked in disbelief. Don't you know the law of the void? Zhuowen said indifferently. With a squeeze of his right hand, the black-robed old man screamed miserably and exploded into a rain of blood. Even his nascent soul could not escape. Zhuowen's elusive speed sent chills down the spines of many cultivators. After all, Zhuowen, who had mastered the law of the void, was like a fish in water in the void. Everyone of the Burning Heavens sect, listen up. Stop Zhuowen and all of you from the southern barbarian lands. Don't be afraid of anything. Assist the Burning Heavens sect and take down Zhuowen. You'll be rewarded handsomely when the time comes, Zhu Tianzong shouted sternly. That's right. Let's kill him. We have so many people. So what if he has mastered the law of the void? If we seal the space and have so many people, do you think we'll be afraid of him? In an instant, the forces of the southern barbarian lands regained their courage and began to gather together. The power of the law spread out above the void and formed a defensive circle that resembled a spider web. This spiderweb-like defensive circle was densely packed and spread all over the surroundings. As long as Zhuoan used the law of the void to pass through, they would instantly detect him and attack him together. Sister Zhibai, brother Hanshan, send your people over as well. Today, we must take down Zhuoan, Zhu Tianzong said, his eyes full of killing intent. Yuan Zhibai and Hu Danshan looked at each other. Then, the two of them sent Xianze and Hu Lai to bring the experts of their respective forces to meet up with the experts of the Burning Sky sect and the other major forces of the southern barbarian lands. These powerhouses added up to at least 700 or 800 people, and all of them had mastered the law of the void. In other words, the weakest among them was an invincible emperor lord. On the other hand, on the Long family's side, there were only about 100 half-step sages and a few profound sages. The Dragon Soul Cultivator was currently fighting against the 18 Black Flame Envoys and was badly battered. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhuoan floated in front of the Rika team as 5 figures swept behind him. These 5 figures were none other than Lu Hantian, Kanan, Gatha, Mo Yang Wushang, and Mo Lingtian. Chapter 1569. The Burning Flame Tower had collapsed. Big brother Hantian, be careful. Zhuoan looked at Lu Hantian and the other 4 and cautioned them. Lu Hantian and the other 4 nodded slightly. Soon, their attention fell on the beautiful figure in the phoenix dress not far away, and their eyes lit up. Zhuoan, congratulations. You're finally reunited with your sister-in-law. Lu Hantian laughed. The other 4 also smiled. They knew very well that the main purpose of this trip was Mu Chunxue. Now that the 2 of them were reunited, the 5 of them were relieved. Zhuoan forced a smile, but did not explain that Mu Chunxue had lost her memory. Mie Fen, you little bastard, weren't you very arrogant before? Today, I'll let you be arrogant enough. Let's attack together and kill this kid. Kill everyone in Rika. At this moment, Xiozha and Tiger Split were leading a majestic group of experts as they rushed over. Whether it was the Burning Heaven sect, the Ferocious Tiger sect, the Snow Palace, or the other forces in the southern wilderness, they were all gathered together by him. Although many forces in the southern wilderness joined the crusade out of greed, there were also a few forces who knew that they were not strong enough, so they did not get involved. The Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate was one of those few forces. Today's Burning Sky City is about to change. Bingyu, Hanyu, the 2 of you follow me and leave Burning Sky City quickly. The Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate will not interfere with anyone or anything here. The Empyrean Saint waved his sleeve and led Xia Bingyu, Hanyu, and the people from the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate away from the Burning Sky Plaza. Although Xia Bingyu was still a little worried about Zhuoan, she knew that her words carried little weight, and the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate would not interfere in this matter, so there was nothing she could do to help. Other than the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate, the other forces that did not participate in this matter also stayed far away and did not dare to come close. It's just a motley crew. What's the use of having more people? Lu Hantian sneered and continued, everyone, bring out your real weapons and kill this motley crew. As soon as Lu Hantian spoke, nearly 100 Rika half-step saints took out their profound saint artifacts. Some of them even had more than one profound saint artifact, one offensive saint artifact, and one defensive saint artifact. Every half-saint is equipped with a profound sage artifact. Isn't this too extravagant? The expressions of Xiao Ziyi and Hu Lai stiffened. The many cultivators behind them were also slightly startled. Generally speaking, when a cultivator reached the profound saint realm, the major forces would give them a profound sage artifact at their discretion. However, it was unlikely that they would be given a half-saint, unless they were the descendants of a major force or an extremely important junior. When they were half-saints, they might have a profound sage artifact. But now, nearly 100 Rika half-step saints each had a profound sage artifact, and some of the younger cultivators even had 2 profound sage artifacts at the same time. How rich must they be to be able to take out so many profound sage artifacts to equip their subordinates? Kill. Long Tian raised his arm and shouted. Along with Lu Hantian and the other 4, Nearly 100 profound sage artifacts bloomed with a breathtaking power. Don't be afraid. We have more people. If we work together, we won't be afraid of these Rika cultivators. Xiao Ziyi quickly calmed down and shouted, beginning to mobilize the many cultivators behind him. The elite disciples of the Burning Heaven sect, the Fierce Tiger sect, and the Snow Palace naturally obeyed. However, the cultivators of the southern barbarian forces all had their own ulterior motives, but they did not dare to disobey Xiao Ziyi's orders. Rumble. In an instant, the two teams collided, and the scene of hundreds and thousands of people fighting took place in the sky above Burning Heaven City. Moreover, all of them were rare experts, and the battle was extremely spectacular. Although the Rika side was equipped with profound sage artifacts, they were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. Therefore, in this collision, they were evenly matched. As for Xiao Ziyi and Tiger Break, they were like fish in water. They joined forces and wantonly slaughtered the Rika team. Although Lu Hantian and the other four had joined forces to block them, they were barely able to do so. These two were peak profound sage realm cultivators, and their battle strength was comparable to the Sky Yin Saint realm. When they joined forces, they were unstoppable. Of course, during the battle, Xiao Ziyi and Tiger Break were constantly paying attention to Zhuowen's movements. If Zhuowen showed any signs of interfering, the two of them would immediately retreat. The two of them were very clear about how terrifying Zhuowen's strength was. Lo's Tianzong, who collapsing mountain, and Yuan Jibai were facing each other from a distance. The six of them did not fight, but were wary of each other. Xiao Ziyi, Tiger Break, I originally wanted to spare your lives, but since you want to die so much, I, Zhuowen, will fulfill your wishes. Zhuowen's eyes were extremely cold. He took a step forward and rushed towards Xiao Ziyi and Tiger Break at lightning speed. Xiao Ziyi and Hu Lai looked at each other and retreated without the slightest hesitation. The direction they were retreating towards was the Burning Sky Hall. Void. Zhuowen entered the void and approached the two of them as if he had teleported. However, Tiger Break directly used the Heavenly Tiger Escape technique and arrived at the Burning Sky Hall with Xiao Ziyi first. You still want to leave? Zhuowen also took a step into the large hall. However, Xiao Ziyi and Hu Lai laughed coldly the moment he stepped into the large hall. Idiot, you've been tricked. Xiao Ziyi laughed aloud. He formed a seal with his hands and the Burning Heaven Hall immediately shattered. A huge hand covered in black flames extended from it and grabbed at Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly as he threw a punch at the large hand. However, he was surprised to find that the large hand did not move at all. It was as hard as iron and stone, and the remaining force of the punch did not decrease in the slightest as it landed on his body. Thump. Thump. Zhuowen grunted and took a few steps back. He stared at the hand with a frown. That old dog Zhu Tianzong's scheme? Zhuowen understood when he saw the smugness in Xiao Ziyi's eyes and the smile on Zhu Tianzong's face. So what if it's a scheme? This Burning Heaven hand is the biggest secret of the Burning Heaven Hall. It's enough to kill any Sun Sky Saint Plane expert. So what if you're strong? You'll still die. Zhu Tianzong cackled. Xiaohei, stop it. Zhuowen took a deep breath and summoned his dragon soul. When the Great Abyss Saint Dragon's 100,000-foot-long body appeared in the void, it shocked many people. The Great Abyss Saint Dragon swung its tail and smashed the huge, sky-burning hand. Zhuowen used the law of the void and instantly appeared in front of Xianze and Tiger Break. The power of his saint body was unleashed, which made the two tremble and forget to defend themselves. Fart. At this moment, Tiger Break and Xiao Ziyi were no match for Zhuowen. Under the attack of Zhuowen's saint body, they could not hold on for long before their bodies collapsed and died. Zhu Tianzong's face stiffened when he saw Tiger Break and Xiao Ziyi die. He was in disbelief. When did Zhuowen's dragon soul become so strong? It had smashed the Burning Heaven hand. Yuan Jibai and Hu Bushan were even more furious. The two of them had almost lost their minds. They used their strongest techniques and sacred artifacts, intending to charge over and pay for Zhuowen's life. However, the two of them were blocked by Mies and Liu Sai. The battle was on the verge of breaking out. At this moment, The Great Abyss Saint Dragon flew up and instantly arrived at the battlefield of the Black Phoenix and the Azure Dragon. It swung its dragon claws and slammed into the Black Phoenix. The Black Phoenix collapsed, and the 18 black flame envoys hidden inside were all killed. Zhuoan no longer held back. He waved his right hand, and the spirit-swallowing lava river expanded infinitely as if it could burn the sky and the earth. Zhuoan punched the void and sent in the endless spirit-swallowing lava river. Then, the void between the two teams suddenly split open. The two sides immediately retreated. Ah! What a terrifying lava! Run! The endless lava river gushed out of the central void crack, drowning the martial artists of the Burning Heaven sect and the other 4 forces who were caught off guard. Miserable screams resounded, sounding extremely horrifying. The spirit-swallowing lava river was a heaven-defying saint artifact. Zhuoan had unleashed the might of the spirit-swallowing lava river to the extreme. It could almost burn the sky. Coupled with the sudden transmission of the void laws, the martial artists of the Burning Heaven sect and the other 4 forces were all caught in the lava. Splash. The river of magma flowed rapidly in the void. Finally, it slowly shrank, turning into a belt that was fastened to Zhuoan's waist. The martial artists of the Burning Heaven sect and the other 4 forces who were originally submerged in the lava had all disappeared. They had all been devoured by the spirit-swallowing lava river. In the blink of an eye, the 18 black flame envoys had fallen. The martial artists of the Burning Heaven sect, the Ferocious Tiger sect, the Ice Snow Palace, and the other forces of the southern barbarian lands had all died. This happened too quickly, so quickly that many people didn't even have time to react. Rumble. When the entire Burning Sky City had sunk into silence, an earth-shattering sound came from the Burning Flame Pagoda not far away. Following which, the Burning Flame Pagoda that had been in the middle of Burning Sky City for thousands of years collapsed. The Burning Flame Pagoda collapsed. The collapse of the Burning Flame Pagoda attracted everyone's attention. The surface of the Burning Flame Pagoda was riddled with holes. Countless figures rushed out from the Burning Flame Pagoda. We're free. After imprisoning me for hundreds of thousands of years, I'm finally free. Wild roars came from the Burning Flame Pagoda. These were all the criminals of the Burning Heaven sect that had been imprisoned in the Burning Flame Pagoda for thousands of years. But at this moment, these criminals were all released. Who did it? Zhu Tianzong's face turned extremely pale. The Burning Flame Pagoda had collapsed, the 18 black flame envoys had fallen, and hundreds of elites of the Burning Heaven sect had died in the hands of Zhuoan. This was more than half of the foundation of the Burning Heaven sect, and it was all destroyed just like that. I did it. A loud and clear voice came from the direction of the Burning Flame Pagoda. A twin-headed nether dragon that was close to 10,000 feet long flew over. 5 figures stood on the twin-headed nether dragon's head. The person in the lead was a man in his 30s with a resolute and handsome face. He had a tall and straight posture. In his hand was a small sword that was engraved with numerous blood-colored seals. It was a heaven-defying saint artifact, the sword of 10,000 sacrifices. Long Xiaotian, and Feng Shiyao? Chapter 1570. Mind-splitting the previous holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect, Feng Shiyao? Due to the collapse of the Burning Flame Tower, the battle in the Burning Heaven Plaza came to a halt. The onlookers turned to look at the 2-headed nether dragon that was flying towards them. The southern barbarian forces that knew their limits and chose not to besiege Zhuoan were secretly rejoicing in their hearts. They knew that if they had been incited by Zhuoan to besiege Zhuoan, their fates would have been very miserable. When the Burning Flame Tower collapsed, the previous holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect was rescued. Furthermore, the one who rescued Feng Shiyao was a dragon soul cultivator. Without a doubt, this was the arrangement of the Riker. At this moment, all the forces in the Burning Heaven city were shocked to discover that the strength of the Riker was far beyond their imagination. Feng Shiyao was a taboo in the Burning Heaven city. It was said that more than 20 years ago, Feng Shiyao was brought back by the higher-ups of the Burning Heaven sect because of a scandal and was imprisoned in the Burning Flame Tower. For the past 20 years, the Burning Heaven sect had been deliberately guiding the Burning Heaven city cultivators to forget about Feng Xiao. Without a doubt, with the power of the Burning Heaven sect, they were able to do it. Now, there were very few people who knew about Feng Xiao. However, the southern barbarian forces like the Nine Saints Heavenly Sect knew about Feng Xiao's name and also knew about the traces of what happened back then. Zhuowen raised his head slightly and stared at the beautiful figure nestled in the arms of the long Xiaotian. The coldness in his eyes slowly turned into a smile. This woman looked to be around 23 or 24 years old. She was dressed in a gauzy gown and her skirt was like a swallow's tail. Her autumn eyes were as gentle as water and contained endless gentleness. This was a gentle woman. Her gentleness could melt the heart of any evil person with a heart of stone. Her gentleness was natural and generous, and had a strange charm that could make people sink forever. Zhuowen knew that this gentle woman in front of him was his birth mother. Perhaps because she felt Zhuowen's gaze, Feng Xiao's jade-like neck turned slightly, and her pair of beautiful eyes fell on Zhuowen. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, and that smile was inextricably warm, very clean, and very comfortable. Is it Zhuowen? Are you Zhuowen? In the blink of an eye, you're already so big. Although this is the first time I've seen you, your aura is the same as when you were a child. It hasn't changed. Feng Xiao's cherry lips slowly opened and closed as she said softly. Upon hearing that gentle voice, Zhuowen's entire body trembled. For some unknown reason, his eyes became misty and his nose felt a little sour. To Zhuowen, mother, whether it was in his previous life or this life, was a sacred word. Everything that had happened to him had started from his mother. It was his mother who had given him a new life. Even though Zhuowen had never met his biological mother since he was born, the same blood flowed in their veins. Blood ties were thicker than water, and it was difficult for time to dilute them. Whoosh! Zhuowen's right foot stepped into the void and instantly arrived on the two-headed netherworld dragon's head. Standing in front of Feng Xiao, he knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice, "Zhuowen greets mother." Feng Xiao slowly squatted down and gently cupped Zhuowen's face. A pair of ice-cold palms slowly stroked Zhuowen's face as she said, "My son has grown up and is so handsome. I haven't been by your side for 20 years. I've made you suffer." Speaking up to hear, Feng Xiao gently hugged Zhuowen in her arms. There was a trace of sobbing, a trace of guilt, and even a trace of reluctance. Zhuowen's heart trembled. He also gently hugged Feng Xiao and said with a smile, "Mother, you weren't by my side voluntarily. You must have suffered for 20 years. Long Xiaotian put his hands on Zhuowen and Feng Xiao's shoulders, his eyes slightly red. For more than 20 years, this was the first time the family of three was reunited. This scene had appeared in his mind countless times, and today, it had finally come true. The former holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect is Zhuowen's mother. No wonder Zhuowen came to the Burning Heaven sect. I'm afraid the main reason is Feng Xiao. In addition to Feng Xiao, it should also be Mu Chunxue. I heard that the current holy maiden Mu Chunxue fell in love with a man when she was training in the Eastern Land. It was for this reason that the Burning Heaven sect mustered a lot of people to bring Mu Chunxue back. Looking at the scene of the family of three being reunited, many people understood the main reason why Zhuowen came to the Burning Heaven sect to make trouble. His mother and lover were in the Burning Heaven sect. As long as he wasn't a cold-blooded and heartless person, how could he not come to save them? Many people in Rika looked at this scene and couldn't help revealing a smile. Lu Hantian laughed, feeling happy that Zhuowen's family could be reunited. Zhu Tianzong's face was gloomy to the extreme. This time, he had completely miscalculated. He had miscalculated that Zhuowen would dare to take the initiative to come to the Burning Heaven sect. He also didn't expect that Zhuowen would become so strong and that his development of Rika would reach such a terrifying scale. Especially the three mountain gods in front of him. Even if he joined forces with Tiger Collapsing Mountain and Yuan Jibai, they couldn't gain the slightest advantage. Zhuowen, I heard from Xiaotian that your little lover is also the holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect. Moreover, it's that little girl Chen Shui. After the two separated, Feng Xiao's beautiful eyes looked at Zhuowen with a smile. Zhuowen scratched his head and said with a little embarrassment, Hey, Chen Shui is the girl I like. That little girl Chen Shui, when I was imprisoned in the burning flame tower, I heard some things about her. Let her come over and let me take a look. Feng Xiao said with a faint smile. Zhuowen's eyes flickered and he said with some hesitation, Mother, Chen Shui has lost her memories of me. This must have been done by Zhu Tianzong. Now that she can't recognize me, I'm afraid she won't listen to me. After saying this, Zhuowen looked at the woman who was still standing around the ruins of the burning heaven hall. She was like an independent flame lotus. Mu Chunxue had always been calm. Even when the burning heaven sect and Rika were fighting, she was still calm and collected. Even when many disciples of the burning heaven sect died at the hands of Zhuowen, she was still calm and collected. It was as if there was nothing in the world that could make her reveal any other expression. Lost her memories? Could it be that bastard Zhu Tianzong used a forbidden technique? I have to go take a look at that little girl Chen Shui's situation. Feng Xiao seemed to have thought of something and her beautiful face turned pale. She quickly had Long Xiaotian bring the dual-headed nether dragon over to Mu Chunxue. Seeing Feng Xiao's expression, Zhuowen's heart skipped a beat and a bad premonition filled his heart. Mother, what forbidden technique is it? Is it very dangerous? Zhuowen quickly asked. Feng Xiao shook her head and said, I can't be certain right now. I have to go in front of that little girl to confirm whether or not she has been affected by the forbidden technique. Zhuowen fell silent. He stared at the beautiful figure in the distance. That beautiful figure was starting to panic in his heart. It was as if at this moment, that beautiful figure was very far away from him. Nothing will happen, Zhuowen said to himself with a smile. Su. The dual-headed nether dragon descended. Feng Xiao was supported by Long Xiaotian as she slowly walked in front of Mu Chunxue. Zhuowen followed closely behind. As for Yang Ji's group of three, they stood on the dual-headed nether dragon and did not immediately come down. They were outsiders, so naturally it wasn't good for them to come down together. You guys, Mu Chunxue was a little vigilant, but seeing that Feng Xiao and Long Xiaotian did not have any ill intent in their eyes, the vigilance in her eyes gradually faded. However, she was still not used to the two of them being so close. Chen Shui, they are my parents. They won't hurt you. Zhuowen slowly walked to Mu Chunxue's side and held her pure white jade hand. The vigilant Mu Chunxue also relaxed. She did not know why, but as long as the man in front of her was standing by her side, she could feel a strange calmness. It was as long as the man in front of her was here, he could support her in any way. Are you really the previous holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect? Mu Chunxue's beautiful eyes fell onto Feng Xiao as she asked in a curious voice. Feng Xiao's beautiful eyes curved as she said with a smile, That's right. I was indeed the Burning Heaven sect's holy maiden in the past, but I'm not anymore. Chen Shui, can you let me see your sea of consciousness? You can be assured, I swear on my life that I will not have any bad intentions towards you. If I do, I will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. Feng Xiao said in a serious voice. Mu Chunxue knit her brows. The sea of consciousness was the most precious place for a cultivator. If it was not someone they trusted, how could they casually let others see it? However, since Feng Xiao had sworn on her life, she clearly did not have any bad intentions. Chen Shui, didn't you say that you had forgotten something important? Perhaps the problem lies in your sea of consciousness, or perhaps your memories have been taken away by someone. Don't you want to know what the reason is? Zhuowen said to Mu Chunxue. Mu Chunxue was silent for a bit before finally nodding and letting go of her defenses. Feng Xiao's jade finger tapped on Mu Chunxue's forehead. A light flickered on her finger and entered Mu Chunxue's forehead. After half an incense stick of time, Feng Xiao took back her jade finger. Her beautiful eyes slowly opened with a trace of coldness. Mu Chunxue's face was a bit pale, but she was still held in Zhuowen's embrace. Mother, what happened to Chen Shui's sea of consciousness? Seeing Feng Xiao's expression, Zhuowen had a bad premonition. Mind-splitting memory, Feng Xiao said in a deep voice. Mind-splitting memory? What is that? Zhuoan asked in a puzzled voice. It's a forbidden technique of the Burning Heaven sect. It uses a special method to strip a certain memory from the user's sea of consciousness and control it in one's own hands. Feng Xiao said. Controlling it in one's own hands. In other words, Chen Shui's memory was not sealed, but rather stripped out. Is that memory in Zhu Tianzong's hands? Zhuoan slowly turned his head and stared at Zhu Tianzong, who was still confronting the three mountain gods. His voice was very cold. I'm afraid it's in Zhu Tianzong's hands. Moreover, mind-splitting memory is a forbidden technique. It doesn't only have the effect of stripping memories, because if that memory is deliberately broken, the user's sea of consciousness will become chaotic. Her memories will slowly disappear as time passes and her soul will collapse before finally dying. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,